don't know if we have that person here.
We do.
Oh, we do. Okay.
Yes.
Yes, that's me. Thank you.
Oh, Maria. Okay, there we go. Now I see you. Okay, so Maria, while we have you on this side, would you like to explain to any of our viewing audience how to reach the Spanish channel, please?
Buenas tardes. Para todos los que quieren escuchar la reunión en el idioma español, ya en su pantalla van a ver un icono de un mundo donde dice interpretación. Pueden tocarle allí y escoger español para escuchar el programa.
Muchas gracias, Maria. Okay. All right. So we'll begin again. Bienvenidos a todos and welcome to the Governing Board meeting of the Mount Diablo Unified School District on August 25th, 2021. It is 6:07 p.m. And we will begin with a Pledge of Allegiance and roll call. All right, and fellow board members, feel free to unmute and join me if you'd like. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you very much. Okay, and we'll move to roll call. Vice President Mason.
Here.
Trustee McFerrin.
Here.
Trustee Mayo.
Here.
Trustee Nzewi.
Here.
And Trustee Fowler.
Here.
All right, I am also present. So we are all here and accounted for. Thank you very much. So we would like to open this meeting with a brief moment of silence to recognize the devastating loss of a student in our community who attended Concord High. Thank you. And thank you to all of our community who have reached out with your kindness and your concern, and our heart goes out to the family and friends of this member of our community. So thank you. All right, so we'll begin with item 6.2, review and potential approval of the agenda. Does anyone have any adjustments to make to the agenda?
I'd like to remove, well, I'd like to move to the next meeting, oh goodness gracious, I'm sorry.
10.4.
Yeah, I have the wrong agenda open. So I can't find the number.
This is 10.4.
It's 10.4.
10.4.
Yes.
The resolution honoring Hispanic Heritage Month, and that we can do that next meeting.
All right, we can do that. That sounds good. So item 10.4, we will move to our September 8th board meeting, which will be just in time because it's proclaiming for September 15th to October 15th. So that should be just fine. All right, any other adjustments to the agenda?
And President, when we get to the consent agenda, I'm not going to pull it now, but we're going to pull an item off the consent agenda, but we do want to just share a sentence or two why we're doing that. And we'll do that when we get to consent.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay. All right. Sounds like there aren't any other adjustments. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I would make a motion that we approve the agenda, moving item 10.4 to our next regular meeting.
Second.
All right, thank you. Motion by Trustee Mason, second by Trustee McFerrin. We'll take that to a vote. Trustee Fowler.
Yes.
Trustee Mason.
Yes.
Trustee McFerrin.
Yes.
Trustee Mayo.
Yes.
Trustee Nzewi.
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. All right, thank you very much. Okay, so to report out our actions taken in closed session, item 7.1, negotiations. The board may discuss negotiations or provide direction to its representatives regarding represented employees pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. We received information. Item 7.2, discipline, dismissal, release, or reassignment of public employee, Government Code Section 54957B1. We also received information on that item. Item 7.3, admission of student A22 to the Mount Diablo Unified School District. The vote was 5-0 to approve admission of student A22 to the Mount Diablo Unified School District. And item 7.4, readmission of student 01-19 to regular schools in the Mount Diablo Unified School District. The vote again was 5-0 for readmission of student 01-19 to the Mount Diablo Unified School District. And finally, item 7.5, public employee performance evaluation superintendent. We received information. All right, so that moves us along now to public comment. The public may address the board regarding any item within the jurisdiction of the Board of Education of the Mount Diablo Unified School District. These presentations are limited to 3 minutes each, or a total of 30 minutes for all speakers, or the 3-minute time limit may be shortened. Speakers are not allowed to yield their time. So Ms. Jaranek, how many speakers do we have at this point for public comment?
We had about 12 pre-register. For our purposes tonight, if you could please raise your hand and we will call on you and we'll get us a better idea of how many individuals we need have time for speaking.
Okay, so given that, let's set the time limit. Trustees, does it work for all of you for us to set the time limit at 2 minutes so we can allow for more speakers to speak this evening?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, all right, thank you very much. So Ms. Jaranek, I will leave it to you to manage the public comment, and we'll have a 2-minute time limit, and we look forward to hearing from everyone who came to speak this evening. Thanks so much.
All right, our first speaker will be Katie Landini, followed by Cora Mitchell. I will go ahead and give you permissions to speak, and your 2 minutes will begin once you begin speaking. First, Katie.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Hello, board members. I am speaking tonight to advocate for all of the children, including my own, and the teachers affected by the board's decision to involuntarily relocate teachers over 2 weeks into the start of the new school year. Last night, I was informed that my children's school is involuntarily relocating 2 full-time teachers from our site. I promptly emailed Dr. Clark, John Rubio, and Ryan Sheehy my concerns about the impact this would have on our children losing their teachers, as well as the students who will lose their teachers in older grades and be assigned new teachers in brand new classes. Dr. Clark emailed me back the exact same cut and pasted response he emailed a significant number of equally concerned parents. The lack of compassion and overall dismissive nature of these responses was completely unacceptable. We're taking the time and care to write thoughtful, real letters, and to be met with disregard was disheartening. Our children and their wonderful teachers have been through so much over the past 18 plus months. My daughter, as a 2nd grader, is experiencing her first full days on campus. Though this transition has been difficult, it has been made easier by the thoughtful care and diligence of her teacher, who she has formed a bond with and is learning to adapt to her new routine with every day. Our dedicated teachers and our children who, in your own words, Dr. Clark, need us now more than ever, will be affected by this decision. They deserve the utmost care and consideration, especially now during this transition back into the new school year. Squeezing kids into tighter quarters to accommodate this decision, given the current COVID outbreak with the Delta variant, feels irresponsible. I urge you to find a better solution. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next, we have Cora Mitchell, followed by Jessica Gourlay.
Cora, are you there?
Let's move to Jessica, and we may come back to Cora.
Okay. Hi, I'm reading on behalf of Adriana Ayala, who I'm reading her email with permission tonight. Her email to Dr. Clark, she actually wrote 2, but the first begins, My name is Adriana Ayala. I'm a teacher at Diablo View Middle School and a parent to 3 children at Mount Diablo Elementary. I woke up this morning to an email from our union stating we have just learned that management has decided to decrease staffing at several sites, one being MDE. I cannot express how extremely frustrating and disappointing this news is. How can you take the stance that you put children first? This decision directly affects the students being moved to new classrooms, as well as the whole school community. One of my children will directly be affected by this decision because his teacher is one who may be involuntarily transferred. You have taken the stance this year to focus on children's social and emotional well-being. However, this decision is the complete opposite of that. Children have already formed bonds with their teachers and are practicing routines in their classroom. My son will be devastated to hear the news that he will have to move to a new classroom. He comes home happy every day, sharing all about his dojo points. After already missing 1 school year, this has been a transition for him. Now you're asking him to make another huge change. Lastly, I'm deeply concerned about how this affects our teachers in our district. You're asking these teachers to uproot their life by setting up a new classroom, moving to a new school, possibly designing a new curriculum, increasing their commutes, and working with new grade level teams. This is terribly devastating to overall morale and teacher retention. As a teacher in this district, I continue to feel that teachers get taken advantage of. You continue to increase our workload without fair compensation or professional incentives. In these challenging times, shouldn't you ease the burden and concerns of your employees rather than adding uncertainties and frustrations? Please reconsider this decision for students and staff members involved. Then after receiving the general response
Excuse me,
that everybody
Jessica?
seems to have gotten.
Excuse me, Jessica, your 2 minutes is up. Cora, are you available? Okay, let's go to Fabiana Campos. Fabiana, your 2 minutes will begin once you begin speaking.
My son is in kindergarten at Rio Vista School. The class has 33 children currently, 4 to 5-year-old children with 1 teacher. If this were a childcare, this would be illegal. In the US, almost half of the states have their kindergarten maxed out at 20 or below per teacher. Children aged 6 to 14 years old at a childcare center must have a ratio of 1 supervisor per 14 kids. Children at a daycare center are not expected to learn to read and count in 1 year. This is another reason I urge the district to fund the school and either hire a teacher's aide or at the very least allow volunteers in the school. I asked about a teacher's aide and was given the COVID excuse. Anyone has access to COVID tests and vaccines. This is not a good reason not to hire someone to help or take volunteer in crowded classrooms. I am aware of September 9th, the school is going to meet the cap at 27 kids per children. 27 kids per 1 teacher in a kindergarten is still extremely high number in my opinion. My concerns about this is 1, in an emergency situation, we're expecting 1 adult to handle 27 little children to safety. And 2, the stress that comes with teaching 27 children how to read and learn basic math skills by 1st grade. Why are we putting a human being through this? To me, this sounds more like a punishment than a job. I will add that it is impossible to be a teacher, a kindergarten teacher at Rio Vista and not be exhausted and stressed, in my opinion. I'm not advocating for the kindergarten teacher, not only advocating for the kindergarten children, but for the teacher who is at value. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Cora, I see you are now
Hi, this
unmuted.
is Cora. Can you hear me?
Yes, please go
Okay,
ahead.
hi. Thank you. Thank you for taking my comments tonight. I just want to once again speak up on behalf of the families who are enrolled in the virtual academy. You know, for some families, they foresaw the chaos that was about to unfold with schools reopening. And in an attempt to avoid the cyclical exposure, quarantine, testing, all that stuff, they opted for what should be a more consistent form of education. And instead, it's proved to be nothing but the exact same chaos. They still don't have teachers. They're 2.5 weeks in with no real instruction. It's a mess. And all of this should have been foreseen. And I understand the last time I spoke, I was told that, you know, there really wasn't a provision for allowing a virtual academy. That's really not true. Plenty of other districts have offered these programs before. But the fact that there was no foresight thinking that there would be a lot of parents who would want to go in this direction because of the rising cases of the Delta variant, it's very short-sighted. And the kids are suffering. They already went through a hellish year last year. I really felt like in, you know, in the meetings, the orientation and all that the discouragement that was coming was focusing on the negative aspects of distance learning. We already know, we just did it for a year. We're experts at how terrible distance learning is. But again, people wanted to keep their kids safe. They wanted to help reduce the sizes in the classrooms for those parents who have to send their kids back. And they wanted some consistency for their kids, and you're failing them. You are failing them. You've abandoned the children who haven't gone back in person. You wouldn't hire a non-credentialed babysitter to go into a classroom and sit with kids in person. This is totally unacceptable, and I hope that you're going to fix it today. This shouldn't take this long. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next, we have Rohit Garwell, followed by Laura Ferguson. Rohit?
Oh, I found the unmute button. Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah,
Go
hi.
ahead.
Actually, I'm just going to be commenting on a question that I sent via the email. When we learned this morning that there are going to be staff reductions at Mount Diablo School District schools. I'm a parent of a second grader and a kindergartner at Walnut Acres, and needless to say, they're super excited to be in school and loving their teachers. And what I read in the email was due to staff cuts or due to budget cuts and low student enrollment. And myself and a number of the parents at the school, we're just confused and saddened for our teachers, but also confused because we're curious as to where the budget cuts are coming from and what's causing them. You know, when we read the news, the state coffers are full. They had a banner year from not only government assistance, but also from tax collection because it didn't impact, COVID didn't impact the tax revenues as expected. And when I go to the schools are full. The classrooms are over full. So I'm not quite sure why there's a concern about low student enrollment. It would seem to me then that we would have classrooms that are that have less occupancy, 15 to 20 people, and they're saying, hey, we need to cut a teacher and we need to combine some classrooms. So it would be great to have some transparency and some communication as to what's causing the cuts, where that money is going, and a better understanding of who makes decisions of how to fulfill those shortfalls. And if there's any other solutions other than the ones proposed about reducing staff and increasing classroom sizes. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next, we have Laura Ferguson, followed by Julia Jameson.
Happy Wednesday, MD-USD School Board. I am concerned with the current COVID safety procedures and lack of proactive measures being implemented. As we all are pretty well versed with now, CDC does still call for 3 feet between students. However, they have a little loophole in there that if we cannot successfully do the 3 feet between students, which we in MD-USD cannot, that it is especially important to layer multiple other prevention strategies, such as screening testing. We have to have other simple mitigation protocols in place that are not currently being practiced. First, accessibility to COVID testing is vital in monitoring transmission. It's currently offered at a few sites. However, last week, my family waited 65 minutes. This week, 35 minutes. And that's just not the definition of accessible. This should be offered at every single one of our school sites. And it also should be a weekly offering. So if our school site was to be able to have them on hand, it would allow for more of our families to be surveillancing themselves. Also, if they were able to, we could catch positives sooner. And also when a child is sent home with symptoms, this should be a test that we can quickly administer prior to the parent picking the child up. It'll allow for expediting quicker results. Positives will allow for us to get those close contacts, those emails out faster, and hopefully prevent further spread. Secondly, the plan for poor air quality days, I believe it needs to be reassessed. I'm very uncomfortable having my children eat indoor with classmates. For reference, as a nurse in our break room, this was found to be a core mode of COVID transmission. We need to do better for our kids with this knowledge. My suggestion is to keep eating outdoors at all times.
Excuse me, Laura. I'm sorry, but your 2 minutes are up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Julia Jameson, followed by Ryan Clausen.
Good
Julia.
evening, President Cound, trustees, and Dr. Clark. My name is Julia Jameson, and I am an English teacher at Mount Diablo High School. However, this evening I'm here in my capacity as the instructor of one section of online credit recovery. I am hoping that you are able to move the wheels of the district to address the needs of my students. My students have now been in school, enrolled in online credit recovery for 10 days, and have not been able to do any online credit recovery because they do not have access to devices. And because even if they had access to devices, evidently TIS is still doing work to enable school sites to enroll students in classes on Apex. So I have a class full of students who are severely credit deficient, who currently are not able to do anything and have not been for 2 weeks. In addition to the lack of Chromebooks at Mount Diablo High School, which, by the way, the email that our principal got today said that they would not be ready for distribution until September 13th. Mount formerly had several computer labs full of desktop computers. They were not new computers. They were not awesome computers, but they were functional computers. All of those labs were dismantled during the school shutdown. So we have no Chromebooks, we have no desktop computers, and again, no way for students to do online credit recovery. An additional concern that I have is that as the teacher of this online credit recovery class, I have received no training in Apex. I did not teach summer school. And although I have been assigned this class since June on my school's master schedule, there has been absolutely no professional development or even written instructions as to—
Excuse me, Julia, I apologize. Your 2 minutes is up.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Ryan Clausen, followed by Jamie Elzey.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Clausen. I'm a teacher and parent of 2 students who would have attended this fall. I want to provide a reason why the district is experiencing declining enrollment. Both my children started kinder at Westwood and they were transfers from Pittsburgh. This year, my son was to move on to El Dorado. We finally got word he would move on to El Dorado 11 a.m. the day before school started. We submitted our paperwork in April. We called multiple times before school started to get an answer. At 2 p.m., we were told that couldn't happen. Last minute, I had to pull my kids back into Pittsburgh USD. My daughter just started this Monday, a week and a half after Stoneman started. There is your declining enrollment. Stoneman was apparently slammed with new enrollment, which means my kids weren't alone in this. I suspect that many of the new kids were new students that were rejected or mistreated by Mount Diablo. This district ripped up my kids' lives, pulled them from their friends, pulled them from their community. In addition to my role as a parent, I'm also a teacher. This is my 15th year in MDUSD. This enrollment debacle is just a long string example of district letting down our most vulnerable students. Our teachers do our best to make things work for our students and are constantly cleaning up and suffering from bad management. I'm here to ask the board to put better management and better policies in place to keep these kinds of things from happening again. The budgetary sky has been falling as long as I've taught here. A 15-year problem isn't a problem. At this point, we have to believe that this is what the district intends to happen. To the parents, teachers see human beings. The district sees dollar signs. What they did to my own kids proves this. To the board, talk to your teachers. We're the ones on the front. I'm in 709 and 508 at CHS. You're all welcome to come on and stop by. I'll keep looking out for other people's children, even when the district didn't look out for mine. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next, we have Jamie Elzey, followed by Shelley Molyneux. Jamie?
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
I am a mother at Ayers Elementary, and we just got notification at 5 p.m. today, so I'm happy that I'm on, that we were losing a teacher. I'm really upset because weekly we are getting notifications about exposure to COVID, and the COVID variant is just blossoming all over here. And I'm kind of wondering where the state fund, I know the district received state funding for COVID, and shouldn't that take care of this to help prevent the spread of COVID? I don't understand why these kids have been in small groups for, or, you know, not even small, my daughter's class is 22 students, which is large compared to what it would have been. How can we now expose our kids to even more kids in the classroom when we were just received state funding? Where do we go from here? I mean, obviously I've heard other people talk about this, and will that state funding be returned to the state if you're not using it for things like this? Because this seems like exactly what it should have been paying for. Most of these kids, and the other part is most of these kids are unvaccinated. So now you're squeezing even more into one classroom. And like someone mentioned earlier, these kids, this is their first year back. I mean, I'm sure a lot of them are nervous and uncomfortable and just starting to feel comfortable. And now you're putting them around more kids, which, you know, parents are telling them to keep the mask on, be careful, not getting too close. This is, it's ridiculous that whoever is in charge, I hear people are sending letters. Obviously, there's a large amount of us who, I don't know where we go next. Do we go to the state? Do we go, you know, to the news? But this seems ridiculous that nobody is thinking that this is a problem. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next, we have Shelley Molyneux.
Hi. I'm the parent of a student at Walnut Acres, and our kids are finally in classrooms full time for the first time in over 17 months. And now 12 days in, when our kids are feeling some sense of normalcy, even as the world around them starts to spiral again, you want to rearrange their world yet again. What the district is proposing is a huge shuffle after a big year, and the big losers are the kids. Maybe it doesn't seem like a big deal to you to rearrange kids 12 days in, and maybe in normal times it wouldn't be. But this year it is a big deal. We just promised these kids that they'd have a real school year. Things would be back to normal. And just as they're settling in and starting to feel safe again, we're going to change the rules again. This last year stressed our kids enough. Stress is not good for a child, and we're supposed to be doing everything we can to shield them from that stress. But instead, this is doing the opposite. Mental health experts agree the mental health fallout on our kids is likely to have repercussions that we can't even begin to appreciate yet. They've likened the impact of COVID and the shutting down of schools on a child to be just as traumatic as a child that has lived through a major natural disaster. This will add to the feeling of chaos that they're already feeling. You obviously already know that, which is why you've created a social emotional component this year. This is in direct contradiction to that effort. If there is one year that our schools could stand to be overstaffed, it's this year. After all the kids have been through over the last year and a half, don't ask them to make another huge change because we, the adults, couldn't plan appropriately. Find the money. Beg, borrow. Well, don't steal, but allow our kids this victory. Don't go in and turn their world upside down again. There are other line items on the budget form to take from. Let's keep them masked. Let's keep the classrooms to a point where social distancing is possible. Let's not cram our students into classrooms like sardines. Out of any year possible, let's let this be the one year that there's plenty of staff to go around.
I apologize, Shelley, your time is up.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Susie Hubble, followed by Mia Carella. Susie?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Hello, board members. I understand that you have a very difficult job to do in a very difficult period of time, but I need to share something with you. The actions of the school board deciding to remove 14 teachers from 11 elementary schools in this district that would result in the shuffling around of students in most classes, in most grade levels, in the third week of school for kids that have been through 18 months of isolation is absolutely unacceptable and unprofessional. Not to mention putting kids closer together during an outbreak of COVID. It is beyond irresponsible. Our children and our amazing teachers have been through enough. It's time to put the social and emotional needs of the children first. Just because you can do something does not mean that you should. This is a bad mistake. It's uprooting emotionally fragile kids who are very young, who forged relationships with their teachers and their classmates. And frankly, if you're concerned with enrollment numbers and the future of MDUSD, this is a decision, and your handling of it is going to drive more families away. It has also been brought to the parents' attention that our impassioned pleas for our kids and our teachers were met with canned and copied and pasted responses, which frankly feels very dismissive. We are the parents of the children that you are given charge of. We are the people you are held accountable to. What are we supposed to do in order to be heard? At this point, we're going through all the open channels to get through to you, and we feel ignored and frustrated. The treatment of our teachers and our kids, and frankly, how you've decided to treat us is not acceptable. When I called this morning, I heard that you needed to fill the positions at Horizons Virtual Academy, and that does sound like a very stressful situation, but you need to get creative and find a new solution. Please help our kids. We are begging you. We need your help. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next, we have Lisa Buffum, followed by Damon Friedman. Looks like we'll go with Damon.
Yes, hello. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. It's, definitely appreciate being on tonight. And I'll admit that I haven't joined a school board meeting yet. And so that's on me. And I need to get probably more involved in what goes on at this level. And I know you guys have a big responsibility. I definitely want to echo what the other parents are saying. And I know that it's complicated. I do project management, and we all do project management. We're all trying to figure out the best way forward. And sometimes it does come down to money, and I recognize that. But we really, really love our teachers and our ability to get out of the situation where the kids can have space to learn. And yeah, I do feel that there's a planning deficit here, because enrollment numbers should have been known, I think, going into the school year. I don't think we should have gone this far. We just did like parent orientation night last night, and the kids are in love with their teachers. And even if my kids aren't directly impacted, if their teachers are still there, this has a rippling effect. And it's definitely prompted me to come on and as a parent of two little kids, a first grader and third grader at Mount Diablo Elementary. It just, I would hope that the board could find a way to be creative if they can, and find a way to represent the kids and the families, and maybe push back and challenge the status quo and what's being handed down to you, because we have entrusted you guys to set us up for the best possible success for our kids and our families and our community. And losing this many teachers at once after 2 weeks in, as the other parents have said, I think it can't overstate the impact that could have. And would hope and just kind of, I guess, beg that the board does go back and reconsider all their options with regards to this decision. And thank you for the opportunity to talk.
Thank you for your comment. And with that, that brings us to the end of our public comment period.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Drenek. Appreciate that. And thank you to all who called in to speak. We also did receive all of the emails that people sent, and those are posted publicly. So I know some of you called in to say what you had written there and didn't get to finish. We do see it in the emails as well. So thank you for that. All right, so with that, that moves us to 9.0 communications. 9.1 is district organizations. At regular board meetings, a single spokesperson of each recognized district organization may make a brief presentation. Items are limited to those which are informational. Do we have any speakers for item 9.1?
We do. We have Sarah Cabezas from the Mount Diablo School Psychologist Association.
Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, sorry, just making sure my connection is good. Good evening, board members, Dr. Clark, Dr. Gilly, Dr. Scudero, and Dr. Rubio. The Mount Diablo School Psychologists Association would like to express its deep frustration with the lack of support we've received from the district in regards to the hiring of behavioral health specialists and school psychologists this school year. This past summer, MUDSPA lost over 25% of our members to higher paying districts and leaving the field of education where pay is higher in the private sector. Behavioral health specialists are currently filling holes at our most needy social emotional educational collaborative sites, showing up for a few hours here and there to provide necessary milieu supports on top of doing their regular jobs at district-wide sites. This is happening because there are not enough therapists to staff these programs. School psychologists are overwhelmed by assessments as well as supporting the increased needs at sites as students transition back to campus full time. Some sites do not have coverage due to vacancies. This is happening because there are not enough school psychologists to cover the school sites. Our counseling clinic that provides individual therapy and family support through wraparound services district-wide to all Medi-Cal students are unable to take on more students and families due to vacancies. In a time like this, when mental health is most important, we've asked the district to consider providing a stipend for new hires and providing comparable pay similar to neighboring districts so that we may staff our programs properly and provide the district-wide resources that our students desperately need. It is clear that this pandemic is not going anywhere anytime soon. And as such, we need to continue to provide our students with access to highly trained mental health and special education professionals to support their needs. We hope you agree that investing in your mental health and special education professionals also means investing in your students. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cabezas. Do we have any other speakers under this item?
I have not received any other requests to speak as of yet. If there's any other union or communication members that would like to speak, if you could please raise your hand.
Okay.
It doesn't appear so.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay, so that takes us on to item 10.0, recognitions and resolutions. Item 10.1, review and potential approval of resolution 2122-4 in recognition of Attendance Awareness Month. Dr. Clark.
Thank you very much, President Cound. So this month, as we get ready to roll into September, September is Attendance Awareness Month. And so we have a resolution here that we would like to bring to the board for consideration. And so if you will bear with me, I will read the opening and closing paragraph of that. So Mount Diablo Unified School District Governing Board Resolution 21/22-4, Attendance Awareness Month, September 2021. Whereas daily attendance is essential to student achievement and graduation, and we are committed to dedicating our resources and attention to ensuring that all students have access to rich and supportive learning opportunities during during distance learning and in-person instruction. Specifically, the Mount Diablo Unified School District will continue to support school site staff to regularly monitor attendance to prevent chronic absenteeism and identify students who may be struggling with attendance and academic achievement. Continue to partner with the Contra Costa County Office of Education and use the resources from Attendance Works to develop incentive programs and strategies to reduce absenteeism and promote more student engagement. Engage families, schools, community partners, and use a variety of media to help spread the message that we will never forget COVID-19 and how it affected our lives and our school experiences. However, now it is the time to rebound strong by attending school daily. So with that, President Count, I put this in the hands of the board.
All right, thank you very much. Do I hear a motion on this item?
Madam President, I would move that the board approve Resolution 21/22-4, Attendance Awareness Month.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Motion by Trustee Mayo, second by Trustee Mason. Any discussion on this item? Trustee Nzewi?
Attending school is really good. And it works best when students miss as few days as possible for consistency. Also, our educational system is set up to only fund schools based on attendance and to place high value on students with perfect attendance, often ignoring the significant challenges many students and families overcome to get to school each day. Also, in this time of COVID, please don't send your student to school with symptoms. I've kept my own child home the last 2 days because my vaccinated child developed a cough and a stuffy nose that in the before times we would have all sent our kids off to school with. And I hope we've learned that after this, that we should stop doing it to keep our schools healthy. These two whereases, whereas building strong, trusting relationships that promote belonging is fundamental to improving student achievement and participation, and whereas students are more likely to engage in and attend school if they feel safe emotionally and physically, feel connected and supported, and are encouraged to believe they can learn and achieve, are really important. So I want to thank our equity team. I want to thank the principals who participated in the required equity training last June to begin to improve the culture on all of our school campuses. Thank you to the teachers and staff who provide trusting relationships and emotionally and physically safe environments. And thank you to all who are trying to get everyone to move along that same journey. And the bottom line right now, though, is as great as attendance is, don't send your kids to school sick. And I still approve of this whole resolution.
Thank you very much, Trustee Nzewi. Any other discussion on this item? Okay, well, I think you spoke for all of us there. All right, we will take this to a vote and we'll begin with our student trustee, Trustee Fowler.
Yes.
Trustee Mayo.
Yes.
Trustee Mason.
Yes.
Trustee Nzewi.
Yes.
And Trustee McFerrin.
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. Thank you very much. All right, item 10.2, review and potential approval of Board Resolution 2122-5 for personnel with provisional internship permits. Dr. Clark.
Yes, and Dr. Rubio is going to take this item.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. As you know, the California Commission on Teaching Credentialing does provide a provisional internship permit to allow applicants additional time to complete their course requirements to enter an intern program. Tonight before you for your review and request for approval is a permit resolution for 2 of our employees.
Thank you very much. Do I hear a motion?
I will make a motion to approve Board Resolution 21/22-5 for personnel with provisional internship permits.
Second.
Thank you. All right, motion by Trustee Mason, and we'll give the second to Trustee Nzewi. Any discussion on this item? All right, so we'll take that to a vote. Trustee Fowler.
Yes.
Trustee Mason.
Yes.
Trustee Nzewi.
Yes.
Trustee Mayo.
Yes.
Trustee McFerrin.
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item 10.3, resolution number 2122-7, providing for the issuance and sale of 2021 refunding general obligation bonds. Dr. Clark.
Yes, and President Count, I'm going to turn this item over to Dr. Gonzalez, our CBO. So with that, Dr. Gonzalez.
Thank you. President Cowan, Vice President Mason, governing board members, Superintendent Clark, members of the executive cabinet, as well as the many staff and community members that we have here this evening. I would like to introduce John Isom. John Isom is with Isom Advisors. And while I'm doing a little more of an introduction, Mario, if you could please pull up the presentation. What we are bringing forward this evening is a resolution to refinance some general obligation bonds that, while the impact isn't necessarily on the school district, the impact will be colossal for our taxpayers. And so I want to make sure that he has an opportunity to explain everything that's there, that we're able to answer any questions so that we can move forward to prepare for the refunding. So John, you're on.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez, and good evening, members of the board, district administration, and community members of the Mount Diablo Unified School District. So my name is John Isom. I've got a brief presentation to take you through, but first, just a little bit of backdrop as far as the district's prior refunding history. This is something that's not new to the district. In fact, the district about 10 years ago, 8 to 10 years ago, really took advantage of low interest rates and refunded bonds that were sold all the way back in 2002. In fact, there was 3 different bond refundings that were conducted on behalf of the district. And in total, the taxpayers, property taxpayers specifically, saved about $20 million. Again, $20 million in reduced payments. And so that's what we're going to be discussing here. And I'm going to take you through a couple of slides here and get some feedback and information for you. So next slide, please. So first, the reason that this opportunity exists explicitly because interest rates are as low as they are. COVID, I don't know that anyone can say there's a good thing about COVID, but if there is one, it is that interest rates are as low as they are. So this is a graph, and it gives you 20 plus years of interest rate history. And if I can draw your attention down to that lower line, the blue kind of dotted line, current rates are at about a 2.04%. The lowest rates in history, not just in this graph, but in history, were last August, 2.02%. On average, there have been about 4%. So it's this historically low interest rates that enable the district to consider this. So let's look at the next slide. So there's 2 refundings that are in front of us. One is what is known as a current refunding, and that would specifically address bonds that were sold back in 2011. In 2011, we sold refunding bonds of about 38 million, and then we also sold new money bonds at about $7 million. And at that point in time, interest rates were higher, certainly. And as the passage of time has occurred and the interest rates have lowered, we have an opportunity to refund those outstanding bonds. Now, there's not a tremendous amount of bonds that are left. Again, there's a few $1 million from the refunding, and there's a few $1 million from the other. But all told, fourth bullet point here is that the district is looking at about $3.9 million in interest rate savings for property taxpayers. One thing that we do in our field is that we look at the efficiency of a refunding. It's easy to fall in love with a big dollar amount. Oh, $4 million, that's great. But you don't always jump and do refundings. You want to make sure they're worth your while. And in our industry, there's a benchmark, there's guidance from the Government Finance Officers Association, or GFOA. And they say, hey, you should consider doing one if you can get 3% net present value. And that's just a calculation to indicate how efficient and how good of a refunding is. So 3% is the minimum as established by the GFOA. And this particular current refunding is 11.7%. So almost 4 times the recommended savings threshold by GFOA. Let's look at the next slide. And this is the second refunding for consideration. This is known as a taxable advance refunding. This would specifically speak to what was done in 2012. You can see here on that top bullet point, the district sold about $150 million, and it also did refunding bonds in 2012 for another $40 million. So if we wanted to refund these, we'd have to do a slightly different approach to it. These would not be considered tax exempt. You can see on the third bullet point that there was a change to the tax law that limited or removed the ability to do a tax exempt advance refunding, but we could still do a taxable advance refunding. What's the difference between the two? If I were to buy a tax exempt bond from the school district, I wouldn't pay any taxes to the federal government on the earnings. If I bought a taxable bond from the district, I would pay taxes on those earnings. So that's really the difference and the distinction. But again, because of interest rates and as low as they are, taxable interest rates are even lower than tax exempt from what we sold back a couple of years ago. So fourth bullet point again is the punchline. Here the savings are monumental, I think was the term that Dr. Gonzalez used. $37 million. Again, depends on the interest rates, depends when we lock in rates, but based on today's current climate, this would be an opportunity to save $37 million for property taxpayers. That calculation, remember the GFOA 3% minimum, you see here on the fifth bullet point that we're looking at nearly 25% in the net present value calculation. So this is extraordinarily efficient to consider. Let's look at the next slide. So this is a little bit more detailed, somewhat of a summary of each of the outstanding bonds and what we're considering. So the candidates for the tax exempt in that table are three. You can see the dollar amounts under the original par, how much is outstanding, what can be refunded, and then that term, which is called call date. Call date really is the difference between an advance refunding and a current refunding. If you can wait until the call date, you get to do a current refunding. If you do a refunding before the call date, that's known as an advance refunding. So that's really the distinction between the two. So again, punchline here, $30 million that could be tax exempt current refunding candidates. And then the taxable refunding candidates, that's the second table below there. There's about $167.9 million in taxable refunding candidates. We also just, out of our due diligence, did a research on the other outstanding bonds that the district has, bonds that were sold in 2013 and 2015. Those have call dates that are a little bit too far away in 2023 and 2025. So while you could technically do an advance refunding, there is actually what's known as negative arbitrage and a dis savings there. So it doesn't make those really good candidates. Doesn't mean that a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now that those wouldn't be good candidates. But right now it does not make sense to refund those other bonds in case folks wondered. Next slide. So savings options. This is interesting because there's different ways to take the benefit or really to provide the benefit when we're talking about property owners in the district. Level savings is where you're essentially reducing the debt service in every year. So the refunding benefit begins immediately and it goes through the duration of the debt service payments. Deferred savings would be a scenario whereby you would say, you know what, I'm not going to give anyone a tax break. We're going to keep paying what we're paying and we're going to chop off or shorten the term. So that's a consideration as far as deferred savings go. That's a less common, just for some context, because many districts say, hey, I want to give a tax break now to the people that have been paying on it. But sometimes there are structural considerations or other considerations that deferred savings make sense. The final option is an upfront savings. In this scenario would be, we want to give you maximum benefit in the first 1, 2, 3 years, but then go back to paying the original payments. I would say we saw this a few times during the Great Recession. That's where I think there were a lot of people that were really down on their luck. I recall neighboring Benicia School District took this option and said, hey, we just want to give our taxpayers a break for a couple of years, and then we know it's going to go back up. Again, less common, but it is a consideration as well. We did on the next slide give you an idea of kind of the differential when considering these things, and a little bit more, in depth, but I draw your attention to kind of in the middle there in that red box about the total savings. So assuming level savings, meaning we're giving an immediate benefit and a benefit every year, the tax exempt smaller refunding would provide about $3.9 million in savings. The taxable would be about $37 million in savings, and combined you're looking at about $41 million in total savings for property taxpayers. You can see the second line item from the bottom, that the combined refunding would be very efficient, 22%, 7 times over the minimum GFOA. But if you wanted to consider deferring savings, for example, the last bullet point gives you that punchline. So by deferring savings, would essentially be able to cut the final payment by 2.5 years. And that would increase our gross savings from about 41 million to about 46. So there would be a $5 million bump, if you will. Please note that that is gross savings as opposed to net present value. So, that means that the number appears to be bigger, but that $5 million benefit is way out into the future, and isn't worth as much today as it would be, of course, or excuse me, isn't worth as much in the future as it would be today. Let's look at the next slide, or the last slide, really, I think is the timeline here. So what you have, next slide, please. Thank you. So what you have here is that this is the standard process that exists. There are the legal documents that are in front of you tonight. Where we're at right now is the bolded board meeting to approve the resolution that would allow us to proceed. There is a singular resolution, and by approving that resolution, you're also in essence, deputizing Dr. Clark, Dr. Gonzalez, the finance team to go ahead and get this done on behalf of the district. So while you have those other documents, the preliminary official statement, the escrow agreement, the continuing disclosure agreement, you have a few other documents that are part of this agenda item. Those are in form. What that means is they're 95% complete or 99% complete, but they won't be finalized until the bonds are actually sold. But what you as a board are saying is, hey, they're close enough, they're accurate for what their intent is. And again, we're deputizing you guys to go and get those form documents complete. But the refunding that you have this evening would allow for the refunding of both the taxable and the tax exempt, and again, would provide direction to proceed on behalf of the district. Sometimes we get the question, well, what happens if interest rates shoot up and go up? If that's the case, and I would be shocked if that were the case, because if you look at this timeline, assuming board approval this evening, we would have a conference call with the rating agencies. We would get a credit score or a credit rating that helps us sell bonds and get the lowest interest rates possible. And if you look at the second to the last item, price the refunding bonds, we're talking just in mid-September. So we're really about 3 weeks away, maybe, from selling bonds. But let's just say something cataclysmic did happen and interest rates went through the roof. Remember, you deputized your administrative team. We are a fiduciary. We have a legal obligation to provide you with the best advice. But if interest rates were so high and the refunding savings went away, then it would be our advice to put this on the shelf and revisit at a later date. So that's not typical, but it's not uncommon to have had that happen. But the board can be assured that your administrative team and your fiduciary is going to make sure that if we do this, it's going to make a lot of sense and not something that is just done to be done. I mean, things do change, but that's another common question that we get. So that concludes this presentation. I'm happy to take any questions if there are any at this point in time. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I'll open it up to questions of our trustees. It's hard for me to see if your hand is raised, so just speak up if you have a question.
This is Linda. I am very pleased to see this presentation from ISOM Advisors, and I believe that our taxpayers will be pleased as well, and there is a savings to the district in regards to these transactions, so that's beneficial for the district as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Mayo. Any other comments or questions? I have a few. So just to clarify, you talked about the 3 different types, the level, deferred, and upfront, and that the estimates you gave us were for leveled, but then you also showed what it would be for deferred. At what point in the timeline do you need to make the decision between those 3 options?
You know, about a week before pricing. So what happens is once we've got all of these legal steps done, there's a time to prep, what I call prep the bonds, and that usually means getting that rating or ratings, and sometimes bond insurance. So then you're able to kind of pretty it up and say, all right, we've got everything we need. Here's the investor's prospectus, that preliminary official statement is the thickest document that you have there. And now we can attach a rating to it and possibly insurance. And then the investors have, you know, basically a week. The underwriter takes that information, they post the preliminary official statement, and then there's about a week for those investors to kind of mull it over and figure out, okay, just how aggressive do I want to be when I bid, you know, on these interest rates. So at that point in time, at the time that the preliminary official statement gets posted would be the time that we would want to make that determination, because investors are going to want to know, am I bidding on, you know, 20 years? Are we cutting off a couple of years so it's only 18? Am I going to have this, you know, similar debt service payments except in the early years? So those would all be decisions that we would like to make when we post the preliminary official statement a week before pricing.
Okay, thank you. So, so to clarify for the public, that decision of which type is not in the current resolution tonight.
Correct.
Right. Okay. I do recall when we had Measure J, I feel like it was a deferred situation because we wanted to be able to pay it off early so that we could then go out for another bond. Do you see that very often with school districts as they're planning long-term when to go out for the next bond, that they would choose deferred for that reason?
You know, I think if there was, I would say that is not very common, primarily because for things to line up, you know, usually you have an expiring bond program and you're saying, hey, the next 8 years, the bond program expires. If I can chop off 2 years from that or a year from that, maybe I get to go and do my bond election in 2026, right? So I can go to the voters and say, oh, hey, I'm going to extend the bond program. Taxes are going to drop off in a couple of years. Let's not let them drop off. Let's just do a tax rate extension, keep paying what we've been paying. That would be a scenario where, you know, we've seen that happen. But I would say, for the most part, most districts are driven by, okay, how much can I maximize savings to taxpayers, number one, and when do I want to provide that benefit? Again, Benicia being an outlier saying, we feel bad, everyone's hurting. Other districts saying, I don't want to defer, you know, my taxpayers have been paying for years and years and years. They should get the benefit, you know, not someone in, you know, 12 years from now or 18 years from now. So those are typically the 2 stronger drivers or bigger drivers. But from time to time, people use that as part of their, you know, bigger strategy, if you will, about when do I go out to the taxpayers next.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Well, this is a very exciting opportunity. I would agree with you, Trustee Mayo, that the opportunity to be able to save our taxpayers, as Dr. Gonzalez said, a monumental amount of their tax payments is really a fantastic opportunity that we should really be taking advantage of. So thank you for all of your hard work on this and for bringing the opportunity to our attention to be an opportunity tonight. Any other questions or comments from the trustees, or do I hear a motion on this item?
I just
Trustee Fowler, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that it was very easy to comprehend what you were presenting. I thought you presented it very well. For me, I know I'm a high school student. I don't understand taxes as much as everyone else does. So I thought it was very easy to comprehend, and I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate hearing that. Thank you, Trustee Fowler.
Thank you, Trustee Fowler. Yes, absolutely. We definitely want things to be clear and transparent. All right. Would anyone like to make a motion on this item?
Madam President, I will step into that. I'll move that the board approve resolution number 21/22-7, providing for the issuance and sale of 2021 refunding general obligation bonds.
I'll second that.
All right. Thank you very much, Trustee Mayo, for the motion, and the second by Trustee Mason. Any further discussion? All right, we'll take that to a vote, and we'll start with Trustee Fowler.
Yes.
Trustee Mayo.
Yes.
Trustee Mason.
Yes.
Trustee Nzewi.
Yes.
Trustee McFerrin.
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. Have a great night. Okay, so that moves us on to item 11.0, public employee appointments. So thank you to all of our appointees who've been waiting for this part of the evening, and I will turn it over to Dr. Clark.
Yeah, and I know this is always an exciting time as we welcome on new team members to the MDUSD team. And with that, I know we're bringing forward 3 individuals tonight, and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Scudero, who will introduce them, and he will take it from here. Dr. Scudero.
Good evening. So I'll introduce each of the candidates, do a little information about them, and then turn it over to the board after the board votes, give each candidate a chance to say hello to the board. So we'd like to bring for your review and potential approval, Sue Ellen Thomas as the new vice principal at Concord High. Sue Ellen started as a classroom aide in Orinda Union School District before being hired as a 3rd grade teacher with Pittsburgh Unified. Sue Ellen rejoined Orinda in 2014 as a 7th grade core teacher. She earned her bachelor's degree in business finance from Anna Maria College and her master's degree in educational leadership from Cal State East Bay. Sue Ellen has 3 children, Jacob, Michaela, and Anika. She and her partner, Jay, reside in Orinda. And we turn this over to the board.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Scudero. Do I hear a motion on item 11.1?
I would make a motion that we approve the appointment of Sue Ellen Thomas as vice principal at Concord High School.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, thank you. Motion by Vice President Mason, second by Trustee Mayo. Any other comments? We'll take it to a vote. Trustee Fowler?
Yes.
Trustee Mason?
Yes.
Trustee Mayo?
Yes.
Trustee McFerrin?
Yes.
Trustee Nzewi?
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from the student board member. Thank you so much and congratulations. Welcome. Would you like to say a few words?
I would love to say a few words. This is a little nerve-wracking, but how exciting. I am thrilled and honored to have this opportunity. I want to thank the board and Superintendent Dr. Clark. Thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to joining all of you and serving as a vice principal at Concord High School. Thank you so much.
I was clapping on mute there. All right. Congratulations and welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank
All
you
right.
so much.
Great. We'll see you out there soon. All right. 11.2, appointment of social work specialist district-wide. Dr. Scudero.
Yes, we'd like to bring for your review and potential approval the appointment of Monty Bonsack as a new district-wide social work specialist. Monty has worked in education and schools for the past 14 years, attending the UC Berkeley School of Social Welfare graduate program. Monty has a Bachelor of Liberal Arts from New School University in New York and a Master's of Social Welfare from UC Berkeley. She is also a licensed clinical social worker. Monty lives in Berkeley with her 2 children, Desmond and Vivian, and their dog, Squash. She and her family love watching and attending local sporting events, gardening, music, and cooking together. We turn this over to the board.
All right, thank you very much. Do I hear a motion on this item?
I'll move to approve the appointment of Monty Bonsack as our new social work specialist district-wide.
Second.
All right, thank you. Motion by trustee McFerrin, second by trustee Mayo. Any discussion? We'll take this to a vote. Trustee Fowler,
Yes.
trustee McFerrin,
Yeah.
trustee Mayo,
Yes.
trustee Mason,
Yes.
trustee Nzewi.
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. Welcome, welcome. Are you
Hello.
here? Oh, would you like to say a few words?
Sure. Thank you so much. I'm very excited to start this new role serving students district-wide. I actually was an intern myself in the Foster Youth Services and Hope programs at MDUSD while in grad school many years ago. And then I went on to spend another many years at Alliance and Olympic High School, which I'm very proud of. I'm very eager to work with new social work interns in order to increase the amount of services we can offer MDUSD students at this time and into the future. So thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you. Congratulations. All right. This is much more fun in person, but welcome nevertheless over the screen here. Okay, item 11.3, program specialist, educational technology in the TIS department. Dr. Scudero.
Yes, we'd like to bring for your review and potential approval the appointment of Craig Box as the new program specialist, educational technology in the TIS department. Craig has worked for the last 3 years as vice principal at Northgate High School. He has more than 5 years of experience working as a classroom social studies teacher at the middle school and high school level. He has more than a decade of experience working as an executive producer on more than 75 published educational and entertainment software titles. He earned his bachelor's degree in political science from UC Berkeley and a master's degree in educational administration from St. Mary's College. Craig has been married for 25 years to his wonderful wife, Barbie, and has 2 fantastic children, Shelby and Justin. We turn this over to the board.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion?
Madam President, I move the board approve Craig Box as program specialist in the educational technology division.
Thank you, trustee Mayo. Do I hear
I'll
a second?
second that.
Okay, thank you. All right, motion by trustee Mayo, second by trustee Mason. We'll put that to a vote. Trustee Fowler,
Yes.
trustee Mayo,
Yes.
trustee Mason,
Yes.
trustee Nzewi,
Yes.
trustee McFerrin.
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. Welcome, Mr. Box. I see you on the screen there.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, a lot more fun in person, but thank you, President Cound and board trustees, obviously Dr. Clark. I'm super excited about the new opportunity to serve all of the students in MDUSD and help bring the educational technology to all the students and to integrate it into our classrooms as best that we can. So I'm really looking forward to the new role. I'll definitely miss working at Northgate with a wonderful team and community, but really look forward to the new opportunity. So thank you very much.
Right, welcome, Mr. Box. Thank you so much. And that's going to be, yeah, that's a crucial role going forward. I think technology has always been an important piece of our students' learning, but now with distance learning and independent study and all of the career possibilities that open up when students truly utilize and understand technology, there's so many possibilities there. So really excited to have this position. Thank you. Okay, great.
Yeah, so just in closing, President Count, I just want to just welcome, these 3 new administrators, and it's clear, that we have a theme going here that a lot of internal candidates have worked their way up and have been promoted throughout our organization, and so just very pleased with that. It does obviously leave a hole and a domino effect. So we are busily working to fill those positions as well. But just want to give a hats off to the entire human resources team for their tireless work that they've been doing over the last several months in dealing with some of the challenges that all schools within California are dealing with right now. So again, thank you to the board and welcome to these new team members in their new role.
Yes. All right. We look forward to seeing all of you out and about. All right. So that moves us on to item 12.0, reports and information. 12.1 is California Collaborative for Educational Excellence presentation on the systematic instructional review, the SIR report next steps. Dr. Clark.
Yeah, so I'm going to introduce the team from CCEE. You all have met them before. They did come in person to our meeting that we held towards the end of the school year last year. And just as we continue to look in the mirror at Mount Diablo and look at our operations, this is really on the academic side as we're looking at everything that we do in the district, but this really has to do with our academics and how we're serving all of our students, and specifically how we're serving some of our most vulnerable students and students who've been underserved over the years. And so, we meet regularly with the CCE team. We are, this is a collaborative effort. They are definitely partners in this, and we're really excited to be moving in this direction at really improving all of our practices on the academic level. So, without any further ado, I'm going to introduce. We have Matt Roberts, we have Jeannie Wright, we have Craig Wheaton, and I know that there's some doctors in front of there and whatnot. So I don't want to sell anyone short, but again, I also don't want to make any mistakes here. So I will turn it over to the CCE team.
Never a mistake. Thank you very much. Never a mistake. Good evening, President Cowan, Superintendent Clark. Thanks so much for the introduction, and thanks again for I guess your team's insistent sort of focus on instruction for your students, especially amid all of the noise and with COVID and everything else that's going on with our district. So members of the board, very nice to see you tonight. Thank you for having us. My name is Matthew Roberts. I'm an advisor with the California Collaborative for Educational Excellence. Presenting with me this evening are Dr. Craig Wheaton and Dr. Jenny Wright, whom I'll introduce. I'll have them introduce themselves in just a few slides, if that's okay. We're here this evening to present an update to the board about the implementation of the SIR recommended actions. And so if we can get the PowerPoint up, there it is. Thank you. And let's go ahead and go on to slide 2, if that's okay. Great. So again, thanks to the district team members who have been very helpful over the past few months to prioritize and begin implementing the SIR recommended actions. In tandem with the district LCAP, there's lots of sort of coordination across your plans that are taking place. It's good timing, we believe, at the beginning of this year, as we sort of head into the school year to sort of align those goals and those priorities and those plans. So thanks to the team that's named here. There's certainly a lot more folks that are around the table when we meet with your district teams on at least a monthly basis. And so your equity directors, your directors of elementary and secondary, all of the folks that are sort of in the trenches working with your principals and your teachers out in the field. We also want to acknowledge Contra Costa County Office of Education under Superintendent Lynn Mackey, who's also been part of our collaborative partnership, looking for ways to sort of bridge that, that sort of relationship. The result of our focus prioritization has really helped to frame our goals and to support district goals and to align plans across your district. We will talk more about this later in the presentation. We're really excited with, sort of the communication that's come out around this. So This particular slide that's in front of you, I just want to introduce our executive director, Mr. Matt Novo, who's not on the call this evening, but you've probably heard his name over the years. He's has some notoriety coming from Sanger Unified School District and doing wonders with their special ed and EL population. So we're very happy to have him. And as you can see, the other team members that are represented with our team. I want to ask Dr. Wright and Dr. Wheaton just to quickly introduce themselves, if that's okay.
Hello, my name is Dr. Jenny Wright. I'm a senior manager with CCEE and have been with Mount Diablo since pretty much the turn of the year. So this work has been going on for a while before I started, but I was very happy to join the Mount Diablo team and assist in conducting the SIR and the work that has been going on since. Thank you for having us.
Hello there, I'm Dr. Craig Wheaton, and I'm really pleased to be here. I had hoped to be in person, as we all had hoped to be in person, I know. But, you know, I go back to the very beginning of the SIR process. You know, you have to go back to January, February of 2020, prior to COVID. And I remember doing some visits of the schools. And then, of course, we took that long suspension, and it's been good. I've met many of you during the interviews and the visits that we did virtually this last school year. So it's good to see you all here.
Thank you, Dr. Wheaton. Next slide, please. So outcomes for this presentation today, we really will just want to follow up from our May presentation to the board. If you recall, we were in front of you at your May meeting, one of your May meetings. We want to provide an overview of the post-SIR process, including the current district priorities as they align to the LCAP and again, the SIR recommended actions. We also want to reinforce our role and those of our collective partners, like with Contra Costa County Office and the district, because we've enjoyed the relationship, especially with the district and now with the board, you know, to ensure that we're sort of being laser sharp with the goals that you expect for students. Okay, next slide. Oh. Hold on just a minute, sorry, my slides went south. Okay, and in terms of the continuum of support that prompted assistance from CCEE, the 3 student groups listed at the bottom half of this slide performed over 3 years in the red tier on the state school dashboard. And so you can see those students in front of you, those student groups. And as Dr. Clark said, you know, we're deeply interested in the concerted efforts of the district to improve student performance outcomes for all students. We know that there are many other student groups that require our attention, and so shining a light on that need is really what we're here to do. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. And as we engage in a continuum of support with our collective partners to advise and assist the district team, which is really what we see our role to be, we see strong alignment of the SIR recommended actions in the district plans. And so ultimately, this should help cultivate conditions of growth within the LEA or within Mount Diablo to support student performance outcomes and improvement. I have to say, the district team has done a tremendous job at aligning plans, you know, working through metrics, you know, really trying to particularize what we're after, what we expect. So kudos to them. Next slide, please. And as we focus on educational outcomes, you know, I want to just take you through a couple of slides that just talk about process, if that's okay. Next slide, please. So again, just looking at that top bar, the SIR was completed in March 31st of this year, as you know, and we've reported on the results of that inquiry to the board in May. Since May, the district team has been engaged in a prioritization process to help frame upcoming goals that align to the district, again, to the district LCAP and that you approved in June. So again, good timing. The priorities will be presented in a few slides. But these are already in motion. So many of the priorities, and I believe that there are 6 that the district is focusing on for this cycle, they're already in motion. And so things are already moving. And so we look forward to the communication of progress that rolls up to the board as an update. We understand that the district is also engaged in a metrics conversation, which is really just the definition of what's the outcome look like and how do we measure it. And that will help further frame the expected outcomes for student performance. Again, we look forward to continued implementation and the periodic reporting of outcomes that roll up to the board, because we know that that's an important part of our work. Next slide, please. Just to wrap up my last couple of slides here before I pass it on. This one's an information slide that outlines our continuous improvement cycles, and the district uses this language. And so we're finding it very easy to sort of align, what a cycle looks like, and then during that period of time, what are the priorities and the goals. So you can probably anticipate these types of updates on a quarterly basis. So about 4 times a year is we'll try to roll up an update that'll either go through a presentation or to the superintendent and his team. So next slide. And again, just lastly, before I wrap up and move on to Dr. Wheaton, CCE believes, along with the district, that using these cycles of improvement based on a few priorities will ensure student performance outcomes are achieved. In the next few slides, Dr. Wheaton will present a more detailed look at the messaging around the focus priorities and as they sort of go out through the district. And the alignment across plans, again, that include the SIR. And then Dr. Wright will conclude the presentation with ongoing support and next steps. Happy to turn it over to Dr. Wheaton now for slide 11.
Okay, well, it's my pleasure to really take us through some of the messaging that I'm sure that you've seen, and it really does show that alignment that we've talked about a great deal between your LCAP, the rewritten and approved LCAP, the SIR recommended actions that are out there, and just that common messaging that we see starting off the school year that's so important. I think all of you perhaps have seen the what I would call the kind of vision board that provides kind of a graphic on representing that alignment that we talked about, and it really is the beginning of the very first, at least the very first step in one of our SIR actions, one of the 6 that this cycle of improvement is focused on, and that's a 1A. And I just wanted to read that for a moment. That action is kind of a global one, I think a really important one. It's to craft and share an instructional plan or framework that connects to other district plans and initiatives. It's grounded in that continuous improvement practices and processes, and it places a focus on implementation of district-wide professional learning that teach and promote and practice inclusivity. That's a mouthful, but really it is that global plan, that messaging that this is what we do in our district. So as we look at this vision, it really is a triangular shape. It represents stability, a clarity of focus and commitment to action as you think about it. And you can work with colors and just for fun, what they might actually bring forward. Next slide, please. So as we drill down a little bit in this visual, right to the center, I think this is your core purposes, the why you act, that you act on purpose for purpose. And you have your core values that drive your decisions and actions. And these are familiar to you, of course: equity, unity, opportunity, and to ensure that you have a commitment for the success of all students in your district. Next slide, please. And this is really an example as you look at the graphic. Outside of the triangle, outside of the core values of your district, you have the LCAP goals: high quality and culturally responsive instruction, parent, family, community partnerships, college and career readiness. So those are framed on the outside. And I wanted this slide to kind of show it's really, in this case, looking at the LCAP and the SIR priorities, that it's 2 documents, but it really is one plan. There's a lot of alignment. The actions that we have in the SIR priority actions, whether it's to build that framework, whether it's to build on the equity work in your school district, is one of the actions, so you understand bias and take action on that. scaling the principal equity cohorts. They align with the LCAP goals. So we have those equity work, the instructional work under the instructional framework, and the expectation of equity and inclusivity as you go through. And so you can see if you pick out any of the verbiage of any of the 6 action items that have been chosen for this cycle, you can see how they line up. They're not different, they're not new, they're part of the LCAP. Next slide, please. And as you go through, just below the LCAP goals, you have what I would call key drivers, but you recognize those. They're the initiatives you kind of roll back in school. What are you really talking about as you roll back to school this year? It's learning acceleration and the well-being of student and staff. And then that equity lens that you have. And you can see under that all of the different initiatives that are going to make those goals achievable, whether it's priority standards, working with outside organizations, TNTP, whether it's that tiered support system, MTSS, and working with Contra Costa County Office of Ed to help there, or common instructional practices, that fits under learning acceleration. And you can see in all of these, how there's an alignment so that you can achieve the goals that are in your LCAP. At the same time, of course, you'll achieve and implement the SIR actions along the way. Next slide, please. We're here as collaborative partners. You've heard that. As you implement the essential actions that are required for success, these aren't new, but we're the thought partners to help with that clarity of focus and ensuring that people understand both in writing and verbally what you're going to do, and that you have that commitment to action, and that you work collaboratively within your district, because you do want to secure accountability by measuring these things on short-term and long-term goals, that you see what the metrics are and you see if you are achieving those or not. And then that continuous communication to keep you on point, on track to meet the goals that you've set before your district. Next slide, please. And tonight I think is actually a celebration of progress. I'm so impressed with the work that your team has done with the clarity of message as you come back into the school year. You see that celebration, and we're going to be here with you as you go through, and part of it is having that the metrics that are out there, and I know you're going to do some work on metrics both for the LCAP that will also work for our action items, but they'll be frequent, timely. We'll be back on a quarterly basis, perhaps, to report on those, but really they're time of celebration to show that the progress that you all are making. And so I'm really excited to be with you as we move forward in this process. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Wright for the next slide.
Thank you. So a big part of the post-SIR process, and one of the most exciting roles that we have at CCE is to be there to provide the ongoing support. So if you could go to the next slide, please. So a little bit about that idea of ongoing support. So you've heard a lot about the groundwork that Mount Diablo has already been doing, and the leadership team has really made incredible strides in the work towards the recommended actions in a very short amount of time under very unique circumstances. And so we continue to be here to advise and assist both Mount Diablo and Contra Costa County Office of Ed. We will continue to be there to provide that support and assistance and guidance throughout the entire process of implementing the SIR recommended actions. As both Dr. Roberts and Dr. Wheaton have stated, we meet quite frequently with the Mount Diablo and Contra Costa teams to regularly look at and discuss the progress that's being made, what supports might be needed, how can we offer advice and assistance throughout the process. So as we continue to come back to you as the Board of Education, it will always be from that lens of how do we provide ongoing support and advice and assistance to the Mount Diablo team and the Contra Costa team as well. Next slide. So what can you do, or how does the Board of Education support during the implementation phase of the SIR recommended action? And of course, you play a hugely critical role in the success of the SIR and its implementation. So there are several ways in which you can influence and shape instructional practices. Some of the ways is to ensure that the LCAP is focused on outcomes, in particular for the 3 identified groups, which is foster youth, students experiencing homelessness, and African American students, while also addressing achievement overall as well. And again, the integration of the LCAP with those leading and lagging metrics that can be looked at on a regular basis to inform what is happening and influence, and again, shape those instructional practices. Also to champion policies that integrate the SIR actions and recommendations to support systemic change and student progress. Again, always really being thoughtful and keeping an eye on those 3 groups that were identified for the SIR. And to review the report, and in particular, the recommendations related to governance. Next slide. So the next steps in this process, the CCEE and the Contra Costa County Office of Education are engaging with Mount Diablo to determine those ongoing supports. We meet regularly with the superintendent, chief of educational services, and other members of the Mount Diablo leadership team on the implementation of the SIR recommended actions. You will also see, you've heard a lot about us visiting quarterly, and so we will be engaging in quarterly improvement cycle check-ins. Those are set to occur in November, March, May, and next August. We actually had our first informal improvement cycle check-in just this week. But the first formal cycle will start now, and we'll conclude in late October with that check-in and opportunity to reflect on the cycle in November. And again, that process is just an iterative cycle that will occur on a quarterly basis. During this time, Mount Diablo will be identifying the actions to prioritize. So as we said, they have identified several recommended actions that they are prioritizing for this fall cycle. Engaging stakeholders and communicating regularly with stakeholders on the SIR actions, integrating the SIR actions and LCAP into the strategic plan, identifying and connecting the LCAP metrics to the SIR recommended actions and reviewing those regularly, and working to implement the SIR actions and engaging in those improvement cycles internally, as well as with ourselves, the CCEE and Contra Costa Office of Education. And as Dr. Wheaton stated, it has been such an honor, and we have all been so extremely impressed with the work that Mount Diablo and the leadership team has done throughout the spring and the summer since the SIR was published. And it has been a very exciting journey, and we are very much looking forward to our continued partnership with Mount Diablo and Contra Costa. So with that, next slide is just a conclusion and an open invitation for any questions.
All right, thank you so much. Go ahead, was someone about to make a concluding statement there?
No, go
Okay.
ahead. We'll turn it back over. I think we're at 24 minutes, so we want to get it back into your hands. Thank you, Board.
Okay, okay, all right. Well, thank you very much for that presentation. Let me open it up to the trustees for any questions or comments. Vice President Mason.
Thank you for the presentation. I would just comment that I've been around a long time, and as usual in education, we see the same things over and over and over. So there's not a lot there that is different than we've seen for years now in our LCAP. I don't think it's a big surprise, the 3 groups that we're not addressing their needs. So knowing that the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over with no different result, what do you see as the main difference? Is it going to be your regular check-ins with the board? Because like I said, as a quick read, I would say, oh, that's what we've been doing. So how are we going to ramp it up so we really make a significant difference, particularly in those 3 groups that we need to address?
Our role is to really support the district's priorities and the implementation of those priorities. And the SIR was really to help shine a light on areas that were either low-hanging fruit or items that, could easily be sort of cascaded together and, to achieve the type of outcomes that you're at. I think the difference is just the amount of planning that's gone into this iteration. We see a lot of deliberate language exchange. We see evidence of sort of now the communication of those priorities. And one of the recommendations was to ensure that things rolled up to the board and that there was a seamless sort of chain of command. So these are not things that are uncommon in many districts. I'll just point that out. So I'll just reinforce just the team effort with it, trying to build, the ramp and provide the air cover so that the district can do their work. I have to say, the level of focus that this team has had is amidst all of the things that are going on has been remarkable. So I'll leave it to Dr. Clark too, because most of the answer is like how the district is going to implement the plan, and they're right behind it. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Clark if he has any comment on it, but hopefully that gets you there, Trustee Mason. We'll keep going, right? I know.
Yeah, maybe just to build on that, I think one of the things that I'm looking forward to is the metrics and the progress reports that are coming, those quarterly reports. One of the things that I noticed in the SIR report is the discussion about those three groups, the African-American students, the students experiencing homelessness, and foster youth. And the report refers to those groups failing to meet the priority outcomes, but it doesn't specifically show that data. Right, so like this is the page. I don't know if you can see that. Right, it just sort of says in 2017 it didn't meet pupil achievement, and in 2018 it was not meeting the goals for pupil engagement. So I think what we as a board will look forward to seeing is what were the numbers when we failed with these students. Specifically, what was it? The third grade math? Was it, was it reading? What do we mean by school climate? That it says in the SIR report here too, school climate wasn't met. Was that a specific survey? So once we're clear on where it is that we fell short in past years, then we know what data we want to improve going forward, and we can all be very focused on that. And then I know I've heard from Trustee Nzewi as well many times, are we hearing from the students and the parents themselves that we're talking about here? Can we hear specifically from them about how they feel we can better support them in meeting these goals? So once we're clear on what those measurements are, then it'll be easier to have those conversations and to be able to measure the progress going forward. What I'm seeing in your report is I think that's the plan. We just hasn't happened yet. Is that right?
I would say the way you're describing is the data conversation that we'd like you to see and to have. Yeah, it's where you are sort of seeing objectively, how things are going and what students are doing. Oftentimes, it's interesting, even with districts as large as Mount Diablo, you can still drill down to the individual student that's affected by whatever we're dealing with, right? So whatever program or intervention we need to go into. So we look forward to supporting the data conversations with the district, and are excited because we hear that from you. And so those are all sort of ingredients for and recipes for success. So thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Dr. Clark, did you want to jump in there or any other trustees?
Yeah, I mean, I've spoken about this numerous times about being very, very intentional with our instruction and very intentional with our assessments of that instruction, and really narrowing our scope and sequence so that we are we are not so broad, and there's not a whole bunch of ambiguity with what we are expecting our students to be able to do. And so as we go forward with our instructional plan, what goes with that will be the assessment plan, and then what do we do after we get the data that we collect, right? How do we intervene? How do we push students forward? How do we continue continue to support our educators in the work that they're doing? And then when you're looking at school climate, specifically the way those are measured at the state level would be suspension rates, attendance rates, healthy kids survey about connectivity to caring adults on campus. All of those play into that campus climate. And then again, there has to be some sort of qualitative input that's gathered from students and from families and from staff. So all of those are things that are going to take time to really make sure that they're fully implemented so that we can properly assess how that's going. And like Vice President Mason said, we don't want insanity. We don't want to continue to do things that aren't producing results in our students. And so this will help us just become extra focused with our efforts and with our resources. I hope that helps.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Clark. All right, any other comments or questions, trustees? All right, well, thank you very much to all of you at CCEE for taking the time to spend it with us tonight, and for all of your efforts in supporting our district in really moving the ball forward for students. Much appreciated.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Have a great year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so that moves us to item 12.2, the FCMAT Fiscal Health Risk Analysis Report, Next Steps and Progress Monitoring. Dr.
Right.
Clark.
So again, we're looking in that mirror in many different ways. We're looking at our academics. We're looking at our our instructional programs. We also want to look at our physical health as a district and our operations. And so with that, at the last meeting, we had a report shared out from FCMAT, and this is a response and a submission of our plan to address the concerns and the recommendations within that plan. So I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Gonzalez to take it from here.
Thank you very much. As Dr. Clark was mentioning in that last segment, the intentionality of our work is extremely important. And so what we did, similar to what the technology department is doing with the tech plan, we set our document up in very much the same manner. And so the attachment that you have this evening takes a look at 4 different color phases of the work that was recommended by FCMAT in their fiscal health and risk analysis report. So what we're doing is we're sharing it with you at this time. Clearly delineating everything is still a work in progress, but the most important part of this report is really aligning the functions of the business department with the human resources department. They cannot operate in isolation. Real close alignment and work between the two departments will be critical in order to really address a lot of what FCMAT put together. So the Director of Fiscal Services, Mika Arbelbide, Dr. John Rubio, who's our Chief of Human Resources, and I had an opportunity to go through. And for the most part, we're able to assign and take on the responsibility for many of the tasks that you can see in this progress monitoring. You will also see that on some pages, we have actually completed what it was that FCMAT wanted us to take care of. And what we plan on doing is in 2 more meetings, so in another month, we will bring this back with more updates. And then we will continue after a couple of months of bringing that back once a month. We will return to having this brought forward quarterly so that you can continue to see the progress. We will also go ahead and put this on our business services website so that it is clear for the public also what the recommendations were and how we are moving forward. And some of what they put in their report, they were more statements. For example, the statement that the chief business officer and the superintendent haven't been there for a long period of time. Yes, so we didn't put that in because there's nothing that we can really do that's actionable as a result of that. So that's the explanation that we have for you this evening. And if you have any questions, happy to answer those.
All right, thank you very much. It's really great to see that we're going to be getting these consistent progress reports, and that some of them are already completed, and that now we have a process to be able to monitor this. So thank you very much for all of your work on that. Trustees, are there any questions or comments? Trustee Nzewi?
I hate spreadsheets, but I like color codes, so I really appreciate this document. And one thing I wonder if you can do either on the spreadsheet or just in your reporting over the next few months and going forward is where on the items where it has yet to happen, like I think it's, you haven't even started planning, and then there's ones that are the planning phase. If you could have a date, provide a projection of when it would start, or share what needs to happen, like, because it may be that all of these other things that are in the further along need to happen before you can attack these things, just to explain that.
Sure.
So then we have really good clarity on. So people don't say, you're doing nothing. Look, you haven't started on this. This has been there on whatever the color is. I don't have it open, I'm sorry. Whatever the color is, it says you haven't started forever. You're lazy, Dr. Gonzalez and team. So to avoid that, to know that I'm sure there are steps to this process and steps to your planning, so that it's more transparent.
Absolutely.
Great, thank you, Trustee Nzewi. Anyone else? Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
All right. So that moves us on to board member reports. Let's start with Vice President Mason.
Okay, I will try to be brief. Good to see the kids back in school. I visited several schools, Bel Air, Riverview, Rio Vista, Shore Acres, Delta View, Wren, Holbrook, and Sun Terrace so far. I've tried to make it a point of not going right away in the morning, because I used to work at schools and I know how crazy it is in the morning for the first few weeks of school. So I go later in the day and just check in with staff. And I have been amazed at how resilient our students are. They're all happy to be back. I had only one middle school girl, when I asked her how she felt about being back, she said, not great. And I'm like, well, I appreciate the honest answer. So that's kind of what I would expect from some middle school kids, and that's okay. But so that was really cool. I'm glad we're back and starting to get some of the wrinkles ironed out. I hope that the parents have expressed their frustration about, and I understand that, but we'll get there. Also went to the late graduation that we have each year for the seniors that didn't quite get that last credit before we had the spring event. So went to that, enjoyed that. Last night, I listened to the summer interns. That was very, very exciting to hear how they've been out in the community and being very successful. Some of them actually getting jobs or being potential hirees for people. I attended the Measure J and C committee this week. I'm a representative on that committee. And I think that is about it for me since we last met. And I did have a very, very nice conversation with Trustee Fowler. We found out we have a lot in common, and it was a very enjoyable conversation. And I look forward to being in person so we can have more conversations together. So that's it for me.
All right, wonderful. Thank you very much. All right, let's go to Trustee Mayo.
Thank you. Mrs. Mason and I have been following in each other's footsteps this last week or so. We both attended the graduation and the internship meeting, as did some others. And I was not able to make the Measure J meeting, but I did attend the Measure C meeting that was held. And like Mrs. Mason said, I've had the pleasure of visiting 9 of the schools in my particular area in the last week. And I went during the lunch recess because there have been a few comments about lunch and how chaotic it is. And Just some other comments. And I also didn't want to impact our principal's time on task with important matters. And typically the principals are out with the vice principals and other folk during the lunchtime. And you can chat during that particular walk around. I kept my timing brief and saw the students eating and mingling. And it was heartwarming to observe them as they mixed in different groups with one another, and how they treated each other with respect. And they generally enjoyed being back on campus. They were excited. In each one of the schools that I visited, and you know, we think of the lines as being so long at middle school and high school, those were cleared within 12 to 15 minutes at each of the schools that I visited. So if your student is saying I can't get lunch, or the lines are too long, maybe you should ask, what are you doing? The elementary school students, I believe, are truly enjoying eating outside, because up till this year, they've had to eat in the multi-use room. And I'm seeing students engaging in conversations, and perhaps they're eating a little more of their lunch than they would normally, because they rush to get out of the multi-use room to play on the playground. The litter was under control at every one of the sites, and the students helped snag wandering bits of trash in the wind and get it to the garbage cans. So everybody was cooperative around there, because the custodians and no one want seagulls or the geese on the campuses. So everyone's working hard to prevent that litter. I wanted to share that before school started, I visited a robotics engineering class of 20 students offered by Bay Area Leads, one of our involved educational friends in our community, and it was also provided by DVC. Business partners also contributed to the cost of the experience for the students, and the students that were involved were grades 9 to 12, of whom 10 were from Mount Diablo schools. After learning some basics about electrical circuits, soldering, breadboards, and switches, students programmed robots to build a car as the chassis moved along on a assembly line. Included in the programming were handoffs to a second and a third robot, which does take some critical timing to make sure that the handoff occurs while the vehicle is moving on the assembly line. For the final event, the students had to present to a panel of 9 industry partners. And so they did a PowerPoint, they shared in teams of 2 what each group was in charge of for each particular robot, and what they learned and how they would use those experiences in the future. The industry partners were very impressed with our students and their knowledge, and their emphasis on understanding collaboration and teamwork, because that's this experience. Because if you can't collaborate and work together, you're not going to get a vehicle off the assembly line in a timely manner or in one piece. And there were a few crashes. The week-long session, the 2-week-long session was held at DVC, and participants received 2 college credits upon the conclusion of the activity. Imagine being a 9th grader and already having 2 college credits. You can have 8 credits if you continue by the time you graduate. As a trustee, I was so very proud to observe our women and men in action in this class, and I was proud of every student that participated in the work. So thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Trustee Mayo. Who would like to go next? We have Trustee McFerrin.
All right, sure. Good evening, everyone. Over the last couple of weeks, I was able to attend 2 great events in the district. First, on August 14th, which was a Saturday, I went to Westwood's Potluck Barbecue at Dave Brubeck Park. It was very well attended, and I enjoyed seeing some friendly, familiar faces and also meeting some new people who are connected to the Westwood community. I want to thank the Westwood PFC administration, faculty, and staff for hosting this event and for the community for coming out to attend it. Last night, I attended the annual MDUSD Career Pathways Summer Internship Celebration on Zoom. This summer, we had 72 interns participate, which I've heard is a record number. Students interned with our various industry partners and also with MDUSD in food services, transportation, TIS, and M&O. I want to thank our industry partners who host our students, all of our mentors, and of course, our MDUSD staff members who run our Career Pathways programs. I'm incredibly proud of all of the students who participated in the program, which I must say includes 3 students who were freshmen in my English classes just a few years ago and are now beginning their senior year. So it was very special for me to get to see them there and being celebrated. And then also, this is about my day job, but for me, there's so much crossover and blending together, so I'm going to talk about it. This is my 3rd week back to school, and I'm getting to know my students. I've written them a letter, and they've written back. I've had them complete a student survey. I'm looking over IEPs and 504 plans and identifying the best practices to serve the students that I have the privilege of serving this year. One thing that's so apparent is that there's such a range of needs, feelings, and worried concerns in my classroom and of course in our community at large. And so I just felt it was important to acknowledge and appreciate this and say that whether someone's a student, a teacher, or other staff member, a parent, or a family member, it really is okay to feel so-so or just not that great about school. I just want to acknowledge that there are always different feelings in the room. That said, once I get my feet under myself, and if I can find a sub, which I think everyone knows is almost impossible these days, I am very much looking forward to getting out to visit some of our school sites in MDUSD. And that is all I have to share this evening.
All right, thank you, Trustee McFerrin. Trustee Fowler, would you like to go next?
Yes. I'd like to start off that I did finally get to meet with Trustee Mason. We had a great meeting. As well as I also got to have my first meeting with Dr. Clark, which was amazing as well. He got to explain to me more what FCMAT was because I was a little bit confused. It's a lot to take on. As well as I did attend a focus group, which talked about the needs of historically underserving students, specifically African Americans. I believe it was last Tuesday I attended it, and I'm also attending one tomorrow at 2 p.m. and a couple students from my school are also attending. I work with the Boys and Girls Club of Martinez as the Black Student Collective representative, and we actually filmed a commercial promoting the talent show that we're hosting soon. It was so cool. If you don't work with the Boys and Girls Club, or if you need a kid to send there for daycare, go ahead and send them your way. They take great care of them, and they are an amazing nonprofit organization. As well as we're planning a movie night affiliated with my school and the Boys and Girls Club. And I did get selected to speak at the hearing at the Capitol regarding students being affected by COVID and their mental health, which is taking place, I believe, September 20th. As well, in the California Student Board Member Association, I did get appointed as their Director of Partnerships, which is basically I get to speak with student board members across the United States. I've met one with Maryland and Virginia so far, and they're great people. I'm so happy that I have this position and the opportunities it's led me to. And finally, I'm having a great time in-person school. Tomorrow is Purple Out Day. I go to College Park. That's Spirit Day, and I've got a really nice purple tutu to wear, a shirt that says senior with sparkly purple letters on it. And I'm just very excited and beyond happy that we're back in school and that I have this opportunity to serve as a student voice. And I can speak with my friends as well. I think it's so great seeing everyone and being maybe in more of a normal situation opposed to last year. So having a great time so far.
All right, thank you so much, Trustee Fowler. Trustee Nzewi.
I want the tutu and the sparkles, so you can pass it on to me afterwards. So good evening, everyone. I want to start with like a PSA. about something that I really care about and think will benefit so many families in our community. So there's still eligible children and their families who haven't yet filed a tax return to get their child tax credit payment. And so the American Rescue Plan Act made the child tax credit available to all families up to a certain income to receive what they would get next year when they file their taxes in 6 payments between now and December. And that's up to $3,000 per child or $3,500 per child that's under the age of 6 years old. And so if you see in the news how much this has impacted families' ability, how much it's targeted hunger and brought families out of poverty, to have this cash in their pocket monthly that can go to real living expenses. So if you haven't, but you're not getting this if you haven't filed taxes last year or the year before. So you can still do it though, by filing a non-filer tax return, which is really, really simple. And so I'm just trying to get the word out about that, because we've never seen this in anybody's lifetime, that you can get your taxes back in a monthly payment, and that you can really use, and especially those families who need it most. Code for America made a really accessible website in both English and Spanish about this, where you can get more information and learn how to. And it's just www.getctc.org. So that's get and CTC as in child tax credit.org. And yeah, I went through the whole website and it's really, really easy. Okay, so I got to visit over the last 2 weeks all the schools in Area 3, which are the schools in the Monument community, starting with an entire school backpack giveaway at Meadow Homes Elementary on the very first day of school. It had awesome DJ and music, and it was sponsored by Office Depot. So every student got a backpack, which is funny because every student took a backpack and hung it on their hook, and every student's backpack looked exactly the same. But the good thing is they all had the same thing inside. So if they picked up the wrong one, they still went home with the same thing. I dropped into Oak Grove Middle School and got to see their beautiful new courtyard space that will make eating and learning outside such a joy. And then they're using the plants and the garden in that space for every student for social emotional learning activities. At Cambridge, I visited classrooms and the Second Chance Breakfast. You all know I talk about my passion for school meals. So that was cool to see. At breakfast time, it was like the smallest little kids. I forget that kids are so small at school, chowing down before heading off to their recess. And then at Ignacio Valley High School, I met the new principal, Mr. Pike, and we got together. We stopped by a number of classrooms. I met students and teachers and staff. But what I noticed at every stop, from our youngest children to our oldest, is an adherence to the indoor mask policy and voluntary masking outdoors. So I saw kids playing with their masks on, never reaching for it to take it off when they're outside. When I was at the middle and high school students, I was there during the passing period, and no one took off their masks from my vantage point. And then even so now with this new COVID life, working from home, I pick up my daughter at school, which is a totally new thing in my whole life. I even forgot her one day. I shouldn't admit that out loud, but I did. But she texted me, so she has a phone and she's 13. So though she was left behind, I've picked her up over the last 2 weeks each day, and I pick her up a block away from school, and I see all these hordes of middle schoolers coming towards me, and not one of them has removed their mask yet. And even my daughter doesn't remove her mask until she gets in the car. So I want to thank all of the students who really care about each other and care about our community to stay masked up even when it's not legally required. And finally, I combined my last week's walk and talk with the monthly cleanup at Meadow Homes. So I got to meet a few different people that I don't usually see. So I still encourage everyone to come out if you want to have my ear and join me, and just look out on my social media for the time and location. And the next one will be sometime next week on a day that's not hot or smoky. That's it.
All right. Thank you very much, Trustee Nzeri. All right. So a couple of things for me. I was lucky to be able to respond to a sort of last minute opportunity to meet with Congressman DeSaulnier when he visited Mount Diablo High. He was just swinging through, I guess, to give his colleague, Congressman Jim McGovern, a tour of Mount Diablo High's garden and the International Hospitality and Tourism Academy. Congressman McGovern is the chair of the House Rules Committee and also is very, very passionate about healthy food and making sure that no student or family goes hungry. So he was very interested to see all the things that we do at Mount Diablo High. So thanks to especially to the innovative thinking and ideas of Cindy Gershon, who hosted them. These congressmen are now interested in connecting Mount Diablo High with a sister school in Massachusetts, where Congressman McGovern is from, and where the schools can share best practices with each other and also keep the congressmen informed about how they can keep supporting this kind of important work. So that was really great to be able to see, and especially to see how students really appreciated the opportunity to interact with these electeds. They asked some really good questions while they were there, and about everything from how can you improve food here in our school to how do you run for office, and from local to national questions. So it was a really great opportunity for everyone, I think. So and I'm sorry that the rest of the board wasn't able to be there. I just sort of heard about it at the very last minute, but appreciated being able to be there. I also did get to attend the summer intern celebration last night. That was really fantastic. And then today I attended a CDE presentation on the COVID protocols, where it was really interesting to see them acknowledge the shortage and kind of delay of testing availability right now as demand really far exceeds supply. So it was really reminded me how important it is and how lucky we are that we had a contract already in place for COVID testing that we could ramp up quickly from week 1 to week 2. There are school districts out there that haven't even begun that process yet and are delayed because the supply is short. So appreciating that. Also wanted to recommend to people to read, there was an article in calmatters.org today that was describing how the new state law governing independent study is really challenging and disruptive to our school districts as we try to meet the need according to the rules that are set for us by the state. So that's at calmatters.org. And overall, I know it's a really, I also want to acknowledge that this is a really stressful time right now with the pandemic numbers rising and everyone wanting to stay safe, but yet in school and fully educated and fully staffed. But I am hopeful because as I visited many school sites in the first days, I feel like I just witnessed heroes everywhere. Whether it's teachers and counselors that are working to build a really positive space for students as they transition back into this world of in-person school. Custodians that are just taking so much care in the cleaning and upkeep of the grounds. Food services completely moving from a system of, meals for some to meals for all, breakfast and lunch, and moving that from an indoor setup to outdoors as much as possible. That's a huge shift. And from my vantage point, what I was able to see, they were doing a really great job with all of that. I see a lot of parents rebuilding supportive networks through their schools and through the communities. Substitutes filling in because we do end up with vacancies and they fill in so many places and just make a world of difference. And then our principals and administration managing the unpredictability of the enrollment that we've had along with the COVID protocols at the same time. So I just feel like truly each one of you is showing with your actions that we really can together make our public schools great places of learning and real hubs of our community, even in the face of these deep challenges. I want to thank all of the business partners out there. As Trustee Nzewi mentioned, Office Depot. I know also John Muir Health did a big backpack school supply giveaway, and White Pony Express donated a number of bilingual and culturally relevant books, and as well as our partners with Contra Costa Health Services, Monument Impact, and Monument Crisis Center. It's just incredible what we can accomplish when we partner beyond the walls of our school district with local businesses and community organizations as well. So thank you so much to everyone who is so dedicated to this work. Trustee Nzewi, yes.
I just want to add
Yeah.
to your visit with Congressman McGovern and Congressman DeSaulnier.
Yes.
So at the end of that day, I got to visit with them as part of my day job.
Okay.
And what was great and amazing about that is that they did talk about the visit to our garden. And so it stuck with them because mine was at the it was the very last stop, very end of the day.
Good.
And to talk about child hunger. And McGovern is the anti-hunger champion in Congress. So it's really, really, like, to me, that's a rock star bow down, can I have your autograph type moment.
Right.
No one
Yeah.
fights against hunger in Congress like Congressman McGovern. And so that it's exciting that he wants to connect a school in his district to a school in DeSaulnier's district. So it's pretty awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great. Yeah, they were touring a number of places that day. So that's really exciting that we stayed in top of mind. All right. Great. All right. Well, thanks so much, board members. With that, let's move on to the superintendent's report 14.1. Dr. Clark.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen and hopefully, can you see the PowerPoint? Great. So I just want to say that I'm going to just give some general updates, and then the second half will be directly related to a discussion on COVID and protocols and safety. So anyway, I'll do half the presentation. I'll stop and see if there's any questions, and then I'll do the second half, which is the next item, 14.2. So I'm doing 14.1 and 14.2 right now. Okay. So just, as was spoken before from CCEE, I really want to make sure that this year that there is alignment across the board in all that we do with addressing our LCAP goals. And so before my presentations, I just want to say that these are our goals as we head into this year. Again, all students will receive high quality education in a safe and welcoming environment with equitable high expectations. Goal 2, high quality, culturally proficient and responsive staff will provide engaging instruction, respectful of all students' backgrounds, and again, ensuring that they are prepared for college and career. And then last, ensuring that parents, family, and communities will be informed, engaged, and empowered as partners with the Mount Diablo Unified to support student learning. So just want to really just start on that. And then I know that this was brought up earlier as again that alignment with the SIR report and the SIR goals, how it aligns very nicely with our LCAP. And I really did like how Dr. Wheaton shared the different color schemes and why they were chosen and what they represent, and just want to really inform the board and staff and public who are watching that we get it, that there's a lot going on in our schools, but we can never lose focus on the academic achievement of all of our students, the social emotional learning that takes place, and ensuring that all of our students have the opportunities and the support to be college and career ready when they exit our organization. I'm going to continue to show this picture because I think it's incredible. And again, it's our kids, and they're just so creative, and this is why we do what we do. So just want to touch upon that. as we continue to start school, I just want to continue to bring people back to our website, that this is a place there's tremendous amount of information there. There's links to every single school. There's links to outside agencies. There's updates on our communications that we're sending out. And I just want to continue to talk about, our website and where that should be a place if folks don't know where they can go for valuable information. I also want to give another plug for everyone signing up for Parent Square. We have a Friday letter that goes out every week that really does give updates and announcements of things that have taken place in the district for that week, and also things that will be coming up. And so just want to continue to encourage everyone to sign up for Parent Square, to read the Friday letter. Embedded in the Friday letter is the organizational update. So that's an update to the board from every department within the district, from our maintenance and operations to food service, to human resources, to the business department, C&I department, special ed. And so there's a lot of information in there. So I just want to continue to encourage folks to read that Friday letter and to gather information from that. School did start on August 12th, and I know there was a time when many thought that this day would not come. Back in the spring, Medea President Anita Johnson and I submitted a letter in partnership that we would work together to ensure that we were able to offer full-time instruction for all students. And that was, when we go back in time, that was the goal that our community was really pushing for. That's the goal that the state had, was to get our students back on campus full-time. But if we ever thought for one moment that it was going to be easy, or that things were just going to go back to normal, that was never ever the case. We always knew that this would be an uphill battle. So we did open school. And I do want to acknowledge those who had a hand in that. Whenever I submit, most of the time when I submit pictures in my reports, I pull them off of our social media page, and so that way they've already been shared out publicly. But this was a picture of Mr. Bobby. He's the custodian at Sun Terrace Elementary, and I know whenever I visit Sun Terrace, I'm always amazed by the cleanliness and tidiness of that site, and it is a very diverse spaced site. They have gardens, they have blacktops, they have gyms, classrooms, all those types of things. And so I do want to acknowledge all of our classified staff who have been working tirelessly to over the summer, and to help open up schools, and to make sure that students and teachers and administrators had what they need to do the work that they do. So to all of our classified employees, hats off. And you just see the pride and the proudness that this individual has for the work that the important work that he does, and and working with our students and stakeholders. Again, just to see students on campus, this is Mount Diablo High, and just to see, students walking around. I think, Trustee Nzewi mentioned earlier about how kids are just wearing masks. And I know that's always a big concern, where the kids are going to wear masks, and, what sort of discipline were we going to do if they didn't wear masks? And that really, has not been an issue. And here, just right in the middle of this picture to the right, you see that high school student walking outside in the middle of this, wearing his mask, right? But again, just seeing students together and seeing them working, and another picture of students working in class, is just an incredible sight to see. Here's just another example. This is Mandarin being taught at Sequoia Elementary for one of our, international baccalaureate programs, that we're doing, and preparing students to be, really global thinkers, and to really have that global perspective. And so, very excited to see this as well. El Monte, who can, you got a learning environment right there outside. you know, I know we talked about when we were planning on reopening schools, we talked about utilizing our outside spaces. And I mean, here, there's no better example of that taking place than right here, where we have, you know, a wonderful El Monte students in the gardens working and learning. You know, this is learning, right? This is just as important as students sitting in front of a computer or in front of a textbook. And you know, I'm just really inspired by seeing this. Again, is just another picture. Wren Elementary. This is students getting lessons on their possibilities for instruments. You know, this picture automatically brought me back to the 4th grade when, you know, when I came home with the trombone. And not to say that I played it very long, but I went to something very, very similar like this and got presented, you know, the opportunity to play the trombone and took advantage of that. And so I just see these kids and just trying to put myself in their shoes of the excitement that they must feel about, you know, seeing these instruments and which ones they want to play and which ones they want to engage in. Just so thankful that we can offer programs like this within our district. Again, here goes that outside space being used. I mean, you know, the picture on the left, you got kids again outside, and I know this was a big concern about, you know, where they're going to wear their mask, but these kids don't look upset or whatnot. They look, you know, they're going through regular rules or whatnot of the playground and getting ready for PE. And I love this picture on the right of students utilizing those, you know, those different seats and just outside, and again, taking advantage of our outside spaces for learning, and you know, just very excited. Again, here we go, kids working hard in class. You know, it's not all fun and games. There is work involved. So here we have, you know, very engaged students in class. And then, you know, I think something that we all miss, students outside eating lunch. And I think this just shows what we can, you know, sometimes do with our outside spaces. So here you have kids eating at tables. You know, we got new umbrellas out there at this site. Not saying that these are out at every single site, but every one of our sites are so different. They have different needs. And so we are trying to outfit our sites as quickly as possible and as best we can to really take advantage of those spaces. But I mean, geez, I mean, look at the faces on these kids, and seeing stuff like this really motivates me to continue to go through the struggles that we're going through now, so that we can keep our schools open, right? We never want to close our schools again. You know, that's one of the worst things as a superintendent that we have to do, is when we have to, you know, close our physical campuses. And so we want to keep our campuses open so that we can continue to serve our students. There has been a lot of talk about class size and whatnot. So I do want to just take a couple of minutes to visit that. These are our contractual class sizes for every grade level and every type of class within our district. And so this is something that has been bargained, negotiated with our labor partners over the years. You know, I didn't negotiate these numbers. These numbers were established before my arrival, but these are our class numbers. And so, you know, it is, you know, due to equity, we need to balance out our classes, and you know, it would be unfair for us to have some schools with, you know, lower class sizes, other schools with higher class sizes. And so, you know, this is our standard. And so, you know, I'm committed to ensuring that the you know, district is following contract language, and that we're, you know, doing what we're supposed to do. And so these are our numbers. And so, you know, I know some people may take issue with this, but in terms of social distancing, the reason we went to hybrid last year was because of social distancing mandates. And if it wasn't for social distancing mandates, we wouldn't have been in hybrid. That's why we had to, when we did reopen, that's why we could only offer a small fraction of our students the opportunities to come onto our campuses for a very small amount of time, was because of the physical distancing that was required. That said, CDC and the California Department of Public Health removed the indoor physical distancing requirements as long as everyone wore a mask in the class. So the mask is our COVID mitigation strategy, wearing the mask. So we can have kids together along with their teachers in a classroom if they're wearing masks. And so just want to really acknowledge that, bring that up. I know it's I know this might be different for some teachers or parents to experience, but this really is our contracted class sizes. Now, every year we go through our district, every district, around in California, I'll speak in the Bay Area or whatnot, we go through a period of balancing our classes at the beginning of the year. We have 18 days within our contract to balance out our classes. The Human Resources Department, directors of elementary ed, secondary ed, and our entire teams, administrators, have worked very hard to get a warm body count of the actual students who have shown up to school and shown up and enrolled in our programs. And so with that, we then have an 18-day grace period to adjust those classes. We worked tirelessly, we worked into the evenings, into the night, and we adjusted those numbers in 9 days instead of the full 18 days. So I know as some may be shocked that, after 10 days of school, we are shifting folks around. It is out of necessity. And this is, this is a notice that went out to all of our teachers. And yes, we need teachers at our independent study program. We've had families that have signed up. We have extended the deadline over and over to meet the needs of our families. So, we started taking signups back in spring. We continued signups over the summer. We continued signups before school started. We're still getting families who are enrolling into that program. Well, we have to have the staff to support those families. And I know that we have had folks in other positions stepping into those positions to help mitigate this and are working towards this. But we need teachers to step into these roles. They're following our kids from our district who are leaving their elementary schools for whatever reason and going into the independent study program. And so that has also created this need to shift staff around. And we are asking people to volunteer, but then if we don't have enough volunteers, then we do have contract language that allows us to involuntary transfer folks, or we give them a number of choices, right? You have a choice. You can go and teach in this program, you can teach in this program, or you can do, you can do this particular duty. So I sympathize. I understand how tough this is as a parent myself of 3 students and who've gone through this process during their years. I understand that. I think it's been said before that these are stressful times. I know everyone's feeling extra anxious. We don't want to close schools. We're concerned about health. We're concerned about academic achievement. We're concerned about connecting, all of those things. I acknowledge all of that. And so again, I know that we heard comments earlier about folks who were really upset about this, and I sympathize for you. I empathize for you. I shared that in messages that I could respond, during the limited time that I do have to respond to those messages. I understand that, but we need to continue to move forward with meeting the needs of all of our students. But I do acknowledge 100% that it is difficult and it is challenging. However, our students are very resilient, and we're going to continue, regardless of who their teacher is. Our teachers and staff are going to continue to give them the care, the support, the guidance that they need to make school a safe and welcoming place where they can be successful. So I know that this is tough on many families and on some staff. I also just want to acknowledge that we have some neighbors up north, and I do participate in superintendent groups, and so I know superintendents whose districts and schools have burned down over the last couple of weeks, and we have challenges, but our schools are still standing. There's we want to be mindful to to our neighbors up north, and and keep our fingers crossed. But we do suffer from the air, just as everyone does, and we do have a scientific approach that we follow in the action plan in dealing with our air quality index. And so this is available on the front page of our website. I know that we have a large district, and I know that air quality can be slightly different in different communities, but we need government-based reliable metric to be able to measure air quality. And it's not a perfect science, but it's one of the mechanisms that we use. And so I just want to let everyone know that our MERV 13 filters that are used throughout the district do filter out the particles that are involved in the smoke that comes from these fires. So not only do they help with, with the COVID in the air and whatnot, the droplets, it also helps with the, with the fire. So that is my general superintendent opening. I just want to acknowledge I was at many of the same things that many of our trustees were. The backpack giveaway from Office Depot, over at Meadow Homes. Not only did they give a backpack to every single student, they also adopted one of our very special teachers and gave that teacher, a whole just table full of Office Depot stuff, from laptop to chair to supplies and all kinds of stuff. And not only did every kid get a backpack, every kid got a $25 gift certificate that they could use at Office Depot. And the school is going to continue to receive donations from the local Office Depots that are taking place. So there was that. Trustee Mayo brought up the work that took place over at DVC with the robotics that was taking place. I too went and visited that program, talked to the kids, talked to our industry partners, talked to we had a teacher from Concord High over there teaching in the program, and incredible students, incredible program. And also I was there yesterday to celebrate with our interns, some who have gotten jobs and some who have graduated. I also had the opportunity to mentor one of our students, who's just a fabulous student who I'm going to continue to follow up with this year. She is a senior in our district, and so again, just want to acknowledge all the wonderful things that are happening. But I do want to say that these are challenging times. Everyone's stress level is very, very high, but we have to continue to put our best foot forward, continue to collaborate, continue to be empathetic of one another, and continue to move forward. So with that, any questions before I jump into COVID?
Thank you so much, Dr. Clark. Trustees, do you have any questions? I had just two. So one is, thank you for clarifying what's happening as far as staffing, because I think the message went to teachers, but I don't think there was a message that went from the district anyway to parents to explain what was happening. And so I think there was some confusion out there where parents thought teachers were being laid off and that we were suddenly doing layoffs and budget cuts right now. And so they were saying, what happened to the funding, for this year, and why are you making these cuts now? So I'm glad that you're able to clarify. This is not a layoff. It's not something where we're doing budget cuts right now. It is the regular rebalancing that happens in a normal year. I think the difference is that in some of our schools that have had in a normal year enrollment that's just exactly what they expect, they may not be used to the rebalancing that happens in some other places. In some of our schools in an area where people move in and out a lot more often, the rebalancing happens every year. So in those areas, they've seen this before. So I think it was a bit of a shock to parents in some of our communities that really have not experienced the rebalancing. But because of COVID and our changes in enrollment, and also our influx of enrollment into independent study, we do need teachers to follow where the students are from within our district, and we're just moving them in that way to be able to help all students. So thank you for clarifying that. One question that that I did hear related to that as well is, when trying to fill these teacher needs that we have in our district that have come up more recently, such as independent study, did you look at teachers that are not in classroom positions, like teachers that might be, intervention, support, or TOSA positions, to be able to move them into the positions instead of pulling a teacher from a classroom, and
Right,
why
so-
or why not?
So again, we balance our classes. So if we have a class that has 19 students, then we're going to collapse that class. So again, we have the space within our district. I showed you the class size, and so we have the space within our district. We've looked at every teacher we have in the district, whether there were teachers who were requesting accommodations, or whether there are teachers who are scheduled to be intervention teachers or whatnot. Again, we follow a contract, and so there's a very detailed process that has to go through this. So we don't have the authority or the power just to pluck teachers where we want and put them where we want. It has to go through a process. So we've exhausted every way possible. We've asked for volunteers, signups, all of that, and so now we're at this stage.
Thank you for clarifying. That's right. So the other pieces of the contract being seniority and other things that come into play. That's important for people to understand.
We're following the contract, and if we weren't following the contract, we would have to work to make sure that we were. And so again, it's a process that we have to follow.
And when you have students that are currently in independent study, and I know the state law says when they choose to go back to their classroom, like let's say, under 12s or get vaccinated, and then you have students that want to go back to the classroom, the state law says we have to do that within 5 days. So when you are balancing the classes and making those calculations, are you taking into account the numbers of students in independent study and where they came from, so that they will be able to move back when that happens during the year?
Yeah, and of course the law says that we just have to offer them a space in the district. We're going to make every effort to make sure that they go back to their home school or to the school that they're attending, because some of our students are on transfers or whatnot. So every effort will be made for that. But again, we can't promise every family, and they all know that going into as they sign those papers to enroll in independent study, they understand that.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
And lastly, just on the AQI, I know we've had that question about they're not, some people use the purple air sensors and they're all over the place, and we're using the air now, which is also the same sensor that you see if you go to the Bay Area Air Quality Management District. And I understand what you're saying about we actually need to use the government system, which would be Bay Area Quality Management District, which AIR now also points to. So I think if parents want in the future for us to be able to have more sensors that the school district uses when we make these calculations, it seems to me that we could all advocate asking Bay Area Air Quality Management District to place more sensors in our area beyond what exists right now, because smoke days aren't going to go away. This is something we're going to need to continue monitoring over time. Would you agree?
Yeah,
with that?
absolutely. And again, we understand that it's not an exact science, but it does give us a gauge. and whether or not it's, you know, a 5-point different, a 10-point different, or something like that, we're also going to rely on our staff who are out at the school sites to let us know what's going on. And again, you know, our choices are really is to have limited outdoor activities, to shelter in place, or to send everybody home. I mean, those are basically our 3 options. And so there's a wide, you know, those look very different. And so if we ever got to the point where it's, you know, like how Lake Tahoe is right now, we're all going to know that. And there's not going to be a difference between Concord and Pleasant Hill. We're going to be, you know, socked in by smoke, and we will respond appropriately. So yes, we need more sensors, but we also just can't rely on every website that's out there and things of that nature. So again, we're doing the best we can. This is probably the 5th year that, you know, we've been dealing with smoke in the Bay Area, and again, it's unfortunate, but it does appear to be our new reality.
All right, thank you very much. All right, I think that's all the questions.
Oh, okay, all right.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you. So again, I want to talk about you know, COVID. I don't have a great deal of new information, because the guidance and the protocols we've been dealing with them for the last 17, 18 months. So I'll do the best I can here. But I also, again, just want to acknowledge that everyone's affected by this. There's no one who's not affected one way or another, and everyone's been impacted. And safety is our top priority. So again, I understand when people get upset, they want to, you know, they you know, tend to communicate out, or you know, maybe show more emotion than what they would show. I totally understand that, and I want to acknowledge that there's high levels of anxiety everywhere, and we're all feeling it, right? And so just really want to, you know, acknowledge that this is a challenging situation. So these are the areas, right? Our main mitigation factor is masking, physical distancing, sanitation, contact tracing, quarantine, and testing options. And I will talk about each of those. So masks are required indoor, all staff. And I know there's still a debate statewide whether or not schools should mandate masks, or whether it should be a choice or whatnot. We're not there. We believe that you know, we're safer for ourselves and for our neighbors and for our colleagues and peers if we all wear masks. And so masks are required at all times indoors when around other people. And our staff and students and visitors have abided by this. And I just want to just hats off to the masks. We still have over 1 million masks. So if anyone needs masks, we have plenty of masks to give, and we will continue to provide masks for those that break, or those who forget them. So masks are our big thing. I know the debate comes to outdoors, and the debate also comes to you know, the limited number of volunteers that we have who come onto our campuses for one reason or another, if or not they are masked. You know, again, we don't have a mandate that everyone who steps onto our campus outdoors and who's not an employee is going to be masked. Definitely anyone who steps inside is going to have to be masked. But we would like folks to wear masks when they come onto our campuses. And again, I know it's tough. Staff is already stretched, and so I'm not going to have staff out in the pickup lines, or when parents are walking to campus to pick up their kids, chasing people down to put on a mask. I don't want to put people in that position, but we are asking that people be respectful and wear masks when around other people. So that's our number one mitigation factor, is the mask wearing. And we've been you know, I give us an A in that area. The other thing is that comes up a lot is around lunch and recess. This is verbatim from the California Department of Public Health guidance. This is what we follow. And it says, maximize physical distance as much as possible while eating, especially indoors, right? So yeah, so if students are indoors in the multi-purpose rooms and classrooms and other spaces indoors, we should maximize eating spaces. Then use additional spaces outside of the cafeteria. And I think we saw that in the picture from Gregory Gardens, right? That kids didn't used to eat there, right? So now we have kids eating everywhere. There's kids eating, at lunch tables outside. There are some kids eating in the cafeterias. There's kids eating in hallways. There's kids eating under the solar panels. There's kids eating out on the fields. We're maximizing that space. But there is no specific guidance that says they have to be a foot apart, 3 feet apart, 6 feet apart. It says maximize, do the best you can. Use additional spaces outside of the cafeteria for mealtime seating, such as classrooms or the gymnasiums, can help facilitate distancing. Arrange for eating outdoors as much as feasible. So that's what we're trying to do. I know then we get the smoke, and I know that creates other challenges. And so, I'm just going to say, like, it's going to be real hard to meet the needs of everyone, right? Because we're just in challenging times. But this is direct from the guidance of lunch and recess. So so there's not much more I can add there. But again, I'm presenting this, and I'm going to open it up to questions to the board when I'm done. The majority of our office staff, administrators, district office staff, we've been working on contact tracing. And we knew this was coming. As other districts opened up, before we opened up, there was, we were warned, hey, you're going to spend a lot of time contact tracing, so prepare yourselves for that. And so principals, office managers, sub administrators who are on sites to give extra support, nurses, it's all hands on deck doing the contact tracing. And that's another mitigating factor. The reason why we quarantine and contact trace is so that we can stop the spread when there's a positive case. And so again, this is directly from the guidance. We have to report all cases to the health department. I know there's been some talk out there like we're under-reporting cases. We're not under-reporting cases. We can only report what we can verify. And so we're verifying it. So if someone puts on Facebook that someone is positive COVID, we are not reporting that to the health department. But when we get a positive test, we're reporting that to the health department. We are relying on families to share information with us when need be, and we're taking them at their word. We are doing our own testing. I'll talk about that in the next slide, but we're spending a lot of time contact tracing, and we're going to continue to because that is one of our mitigation strategies. And again, I kept this blurry on purpose. If you want a clean copy, I see you, Trustee McFerrin, trying to look. The glasses aren't going to help on this, but because if we start going down this rabbit hole here, I'm going to lose the whole meeting. We'll be here all night. But it is confusing, right? You have kids who are vaccinated, kids who aren't vaccinated, right? And I know only kids over 12 can even be vaccinated. And so there's specific guidance and steps that have to be followed if someone's vaccinated versus if someone is not vaccinated. If they were just exposed to someone, was in the same room with the positive case, or if they had a close contact. All of that is very confusing. I understand why parents and staff are so frustrated around this, because if you're a parent and you have a high school student, a middle school student, and an elementary student, they all could be having to quarantine for completely different reasons, right? And that's frustrating, and we get it. We're doing the best we can. I just got an email from the county office today that they're ramping up their training so that we can continue to train our contact tracers. We trained our contact tracers last year. We had staff that was ready for this, but this is a whole new ball game as we brought everyone back onto campus. And so we are working on the contact tracing. We have this on our website, as well as kind of like a translated version that goes with it, that really breaks down each box and each steps. But again, it's confusing, and I want to acknowledge that, and it's frustrating, and I want to acknowledge that. But again, we're trying to do the best we can to keep our schools open, because that is what the goal is to keep our students on campus with the caring adults. Testing. I think it was shared earlier, there's some districts that, haven't even started their testing. There's some districts that, that are still figuring this out. We started with the first couple of days of school. We started with just our having 3 sites open. After we had 300 people show up to the first site, we immediately went to Plan B, and Plan B was, I think we have between 13 to 16 sites set up just to test the process. On Monday, I went online, I re-entered all my information, I printed out a form, I filled it out, I just picked a random school that was doing testing that day. I went after school, turned in my papers, got the test, took the test, got my results in 30 hours. So 30 hours is a pretty good turnaround. That's, we're hearing, I think it's getting better, but there were stories at the beginning of the year that it was taken in some of folks' own doctors and hospitals or whatnot, it was taken up to 4 days. So 30 hours is great. We have a pretty seamless process out. Of course, we've had to pivot. We had to provide signage where we have nurses that come out from this company and do the testing, but we have also been paying our employees to help manage the lines, manage the forms, things to that nature. Folks are stepping up outside their work days to timesheet and to do this. And so we do have a testing program in place. And again, 30 hours is a good turnaround for free testing. Vaccinations. So I shared this slide last week or at the last meeting on August 11th, and you could see, out of 2,069 employees, we had a 94% vaccination rate. We have all of our, we have our different groups here, and I have the next slide is going to be what it was today. So let's remember these numbers. Let's remember 2,069 and 94%. So as we go in today, we're at 2,330 employees, and we're still at 94%, but you can really see the difference of the individual groups. There's just slight differences. So again, managers went down, some went up, but the average still comes out to 94%. So as we are working through the process, we have until October 15th to ensure that we have a system in place that either those employees who aren't vaccinated, that they get vaccinated, or that they adhere to weekly regular testing. And so we're in the process of working that out and seeing exactly how that's going to look and how we're going to deliver that. So going back to my, to my original sort of slides, this is what we are doing to, to keep everyone safe in this world of COVID. So with that, I'll open it up to questions from the trustees.
Trustees, questions?
I have one.
Yes, go ahead.
Dr. Clark, you didn't mention the dashboard that's new so that folks can see what it's looking like from week to week at each school. So can you talk more about that? And also, can you share how schools are sharing information to be input onto the dashboard?
Okay, so we have a dashboard. Although, there's no guidance around having a dashboard, there's no mandate to have a dashboard. We created and put a dashboard out there. And so essentially, principals and site staff are working with our human resources department. Our human resources department and our ed services department. So within human resources, we are tracking all of the positive cases and all of the contact tracing that takes place. So as we get positive cases, it then goes on our spreadsheet, and it's there until the quarantine or until that student is eligible to return back to school. We leave those cases on there. So right now, I think today we were at 44 cases or whatnot. It could have been that we were at 44 last week, but that some of those kids moved off and some moved on. And so it is updated by our human resources department. It's through direct communication between the school sites and the district office. And we also are working with public health on those numbers. And then we're committed to posting those numbers on a regular basis. Lately, we've been doing it daily. I don't want to commit that we're going to do it every day just because so many things come up on a daily basis, but we have been updating it daily, and there's a lot of folks involved, but primarily it's coming out of our Human Resources Department.
So the Human Resources is also tracking the student column, or just the staff?
The staff at the school sites are doing that, but they're reporting it to the Human Resources Department and the Ed Services Department. So again, you know, Margie Kalbeck, our Director of Elementary Ed, Samantha Allen, our Director of Secondary, they're working directly with, you know, with Jen Sachs, who's working directly with John Rubio, and it's a collaborative effort to track those positive cases.
Thank you. Other questions? Trustee McFerrin.
I have a comment, a compliment, and then a question. I first want to mention, like, I love seeing the vaccination rates. And I just want to mention that from what I've seen, it looks like, you know, our employees have a higher vaccination rate than our county does in general. So I really appreciate our employees really stepping up to protect themselves, their families, and our community by being vaccinated. You know, I mean, we were really trying hard to get those appointments, and we got them. So, and I also want to thank the district for holding the vaccination clinics at our school sites. And then I have a question. I don't know if I just missed it, but I've been hearing a lot about the testing, and I know that I'm hearing that, like, it seems like the signage is improving, and the wait time is decreasing. But I can't remember if I heard if kind of if and how we're going to expand testing to more school sites.
Well, so what we have to do is we have to utilize what we have right now. So right now, this week, starting Monday, we went to 13 to 16 sites. So we're at Wednesday now, right? So we're not going to throw that in the trash already just after 3 days. So we're monitoring, we're getting daily updates. The consultants that we're using that are helping us with COVID, they're on site, they're going to the sites, they're checking them, we're checking our numbers, and we're going to evaluate our data. We're not just going to add sites just to add sites, or we're not going to remove sites just to remove them. We're going to look at what the data tells us, and then we'll look at we'll look at either expanding, which we're ready to do so, or looking at pulling back if need be. One thing that we are doing, there are some programs out there that are doing these rapid tests that aren't as that aren't as accurate. So we're doing the most accurate test possible that we're providing for our students and families and for our staff members. And so again, when you talk about, you know, being committed to our stakeholders, you know, we're going with the highest quality test, so that we can get accurate readings, so that we're not creating more stress that's already out there. How stressful would it be for someone to take a rapid test and get a false negative or a false positive, and they don't have the accurate information? So again, it's all about what we can manage. And I heard a comment earlier that it took 35 minutes. Yeah, it's gonna take some time. There's not going to be a system set up where it's, you know, a minute in and out of there. There may be times when you can get in and out in a minute, but more than likely you're going to have to wait a while. And I just want to add this little nugget onto our testing is there still has not been the guidance provided for athletics. And so again, we as superintendents and as county officials, we've been asking for that guidance, but it hasn't come. But I'm expecting that pretty soon the guidance is going to come, and it's going to have something to do with those athletes who are vaccinated, and those athletes who aren't vaccinated are going to have to commit to some form of testing. So that could expand our things right there. But again, we want to wait for that guidance and look at our data before we expand or contract our testing program.
All right. Fair enough.
And I do want to give a shout out to Nicole Helton. She is the executive assistant to our CBO, and other duties as assigned, she has basically taken over our testing program and organized it and has done so much work. And again, as I said, these are high anxiety times. And so she is bearing the brunt of frustrated people who are taking out their frustrations and anger on her. And she's just stepping up, really just trying to provide a service to us. So I want to give a special shout out to her and her team and everyone really pulling together.
Well, I remember when Nicole was helping other duties as assigned in the spring when the school district held the J&J vaccination for employees, and she jumped in and helped manage that really well as well. So thank you, Nicole.
I'm acknowledging her, but there's lots out there
many
who are, I mean, like everyone has just gone above and beyond to make this work for everyone. And I'm talking with the contact tracing, with the sanitation, with the mask wearing, just with positive reinforcements. Everyone is stepping up. Trustee Mayor.
I received a question whether or not members from the community can be tested at our testing sites, or is it limited to our students, staff, and their families?
So just thank you for asking that question. So we of course, we want to be good shepherds to our community and good partners. So when we first opened up our testing, we opened it up to the whole community and to our family and staff and everyone. And what we found was that we were the best testing option in town. So we had we had people coming to get their tests for their jobs outside of the district and stuff. And so we had to limit it for staff, family, and students as of now. We would like, as things settle out and as we continue to look at that data, we would like to be able to reopen it up to the community. But at this point, we had to scale back and just offer it to our immediate MDUSD families.
So I appreciate that information. I think it's important for folks, and I hope they understand either that or just adopt a child and have them join the Mount Diablo School District if you need some quick testing. For the concerns around the time folks had to wait, I just want to share that one of my daughters had to be tested because of a contact, and she had to wait 3 days to be able to even get a test. So from her experience, that standing in line for an hour is nothing compared to the 3 days that she had to wait in limbo regarding, the extra time that it would take to get the results. So I appreciate the fact that we're doing it. I also want to share that there's a testing site at DVC. So the county health department has set up a testing site at DVC in one of the far corners in the back. So folks can also, on my side of the freeway, or if you want to travel, you can register with the health department and show up there. They're also giving vaccinations there as well, because I know community members that are going there for different services. Thank you.
You. And I just want to say that there's been a drop in enrollment across the state, and with us here specifically in Mount Diablo, we have followed up with families who have left our district, and what we have found is that we have a group of parents that have gone to private school, which is their prerogative, is their choice. We have a group of families that have been priced out of this area and have moved to far eastern parts of the county and beyond. We also have a group of families that have left the state entirely, that have sold their homes and have picked up and moved elsewhere. And we also have a large group of folks who are just missing. And this is spread out through all of our communities. It's not you know, it's not concentrated in one particular community over another. It is evenly spread out. All of our sites enrollment is down, except a couple, except literally 3 or 4 of our sites are where we had projected them to be. So again, this is just something that, you know, we're going to continue to face. I know we got lots of feedback that if we didn't open full-time, full students all day, every day, that we were going to lose additional families. And so we're open full-time, full day. And I know that doesn't work for some families, but some families it does work for. So my point of bringing all this up is that going back to that original slide I shared where everyone has been impacted. And so it's not just one segment of our community that's been impacted, it's everyone. And these are not normal times. And so, you know, just hats off. We're all doing the best we can. I would hope people would show a little patience and understanding, but I don't fault them for not, because again, these are rough times out there. So again, just want to acknowledge that around what COVID has done just to our communities.
Well, we know, we heard in public comment, we lost a couple to Pittsburgh Unified.
And I meet with the superintendent of Pittsburgh Unified, and she's lost students as well. And it just continues. It's just a cycle. But I just need to say that you know, our teams, our staffs, everyone, every level, every job classification has stepped up and is doing the best they can, and I acknowledge that. And we're going to continue as a leadership group and as a governance team, myself included, in the board and the cabinet. We're going to continue to serve our students the best we can, but we know that not everyone's going to be happy, and there's going to be challenges. And with that, I conclude my COVID item. I'm sure we can move on to other things.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
very
you
much,
all.
Dr. Clark. For now that the vaccines are FDA approved, and more requirements are coming in for vaccines, if our students or families want to get vaccinated, are we going to continue? Do we have any plans to do more on-site vaccinations, or is it more in partnership with Contra Costa County Health, like the way that there's the clinic right next to Riverview, referring people to those locations for vaccines?
If we have 5 people who want to be vaccinated, they'll come out and do it. I mean,
right.
so
That's right.
yeah.
So we
There's
can-
around, so they got a mobile van that'll come out and do it.
Okay, great. That's good for people to know.
Yeah.
Yep. I know. I think there's some PTAs and groups that would be interested in that as well. So
Yeah.
that's good to know. All right, great. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Clark. Much appreciated. Okay, moving right along here. That takes us to 15.0, our consent agenda. So items listed under consent agenda are considered routine and will be approved and adopted in a single motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. However, any item may be removed from the consent agenda upon the request of any member of the board and acted upon separately. Do we have any items?
I do want to pull 15.6.
Okay. Any others? Trustee Mayo? Oh, sorry. I saw your hand looks like it is raised on the screen there. Trustee Mason?
No, I was just going to say, if there's no others, I will make a motion that we approve the consent agenda with the removal of 15.6.
Thank you.
Second.
All right. Motion by Trustee Mason, second by Trustee McFerrin. We'll take that to a vote. Trustee Fowler.
Yes.
Trustee Mason.
Yes.
Trustee McFerrin.
Yes.
Trustee Nzewi.
Yes.
Trustee Mayo.
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. All right, so that takes us to the pulled item 15.6.
Yeah, and I'm gonna have Dr. Gonzalez speak on this item.
Thank you. So the reason that we are pulling 15.6, which is reviewing and approving a quotation for food service department kitchen paper goods, supplies, and products. What I want the board and the public to understand is that we are starting to see many of the agreements that we have in place and those that we are bringing forward. We're being contacted about force majeure, and force majeure means that there is some unforeseeable circumstance that is going to prevent the organizations, the companies that we have contracted with, from following through. And this one just started today. And so we want to pull it because we want to go back and check the bid. But what we are starting to hear from many of our suppliers is that what they have agreed to provide us, they can no longer provide at the cost that we had agreed to. So they're letting us know that they need to, in some cases, substantially increase the prices that they were going to charge us. So what you're going to start seeing is you're going to see many purchase orders that are going to be coming your direction that look like things that you have seen in the past. And our commitment to you is going to be in our descriptions of what's coming forward. We are going to explain that, yes, you might have seen something before for another company, but now we're bringing something else back to replace what the other one was, because of what we're seeing with supply and demand and costs and chains and supplies and just all sorts of nonsense. So thank you.
Yeah, it would be nice if you could highlight those for us as they come up.
Absolutely. Any questions from the board? Great, thank you.
Okay, so on this, there's not a motion needed on this item at this time, correct? Okay. All right.
I do want to give a shout out to food services though, because I was at a school yesterday and those peaches looked so good. I wish that I was a first grader so I could have gotten in line to get one that was bigger than my fist. So thank you for providing the fresh fruits and vegetables to our young people. And part of the reason for this increase is we have to understand we are feeding more students. And we're not only feeding more students in our district, it's happening statewide. So the demand on the supply chain, not for comparison, but we all remember what the TP escapades were like. So it's supply and demand. It makes sense.
Yes. Fortunately, we do have some local partnerships with local farms that can help fill in with wonderful peaches and other things. All right, great. Thank you. Okay, so that moves us to 18.0 business action items. 18.1 review and potential approval of the update to UCP Board Policy 1312.3 and Administrative Regulations 1312.3 and 1312.4.
Ms. Sachs, are you going to take all of these?
Well, sure. There are updates to our different complaint policies. So under one umbrella, which is our board policy 1312.3, which talks about our uniform complaint processes. Underneath there are a way to submit complaints in the event that there are fees being charged that are not appropriate, things having to do with discrimination and harassment. And then 1312.4 speaks to our Williams complaint process, which is very specific around facilities, as well as textbooks and teacher misassignments. And so, as I mentioned at the last board meeting, which this came for information, is due to a federal audit that we've been involved in. It's caused us to review a lot of our policies, and we realized these were a bit out of date. So this is here this evening for hopefully your approval with some revisions in order to update it based on changes in state and federal law.
All right, thank you very much. Do I hear a motion on this item?
Madam President, I move the board approve the revisions to the UCP Board Policy 1312.3 and the Administrative Regulations 1312.3 and 1312.4.
I'll second that.
All right, thank you. Motion by Trustee Mayo, second by Trustee Mason. Any other discussion on this item? I know it came to us before. All right, so we'll take that to a vote. Trustee Fowler.
Yes.
Trustee Mayo.
Yes.
Trustee Mason.
Yes.
Trustee Nzewi.
Yes.
Trustee McFerrin.
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. Thank you. All right, 18.2, review and potential approval of BP and AR 6158 for independent study per the 2021-2022 Education Omnibus Trailer Bill.
This still you, Ms. Sachs?
Yeah, so I'm
Okay, you just go right ahead.
So these are updates in board policy and administrative regulation based on changes in state law that quickly occurred in the middle of July when the budget was enacted at the state. And really what this did was this really changed our landscape for our independent study programs. And I just want to highlight the work, again, following what Dr. Clark has said, from our team that has been really pulling together in order to address the students and family needs, but also the needs of certain things having to do with how we track attendance and how we take a look at these administrative regulations and board policies in a different light. So these two were presented at the last meeting for information and are here for approval. These two pieces of documentation are really focusing on our long-term independent study programs. And so they really speak to certain changes within our traditional program. A lot of it is still similar, but there are bits and pieces having to do with the daily life interaction with some grade levels, the master agreement, which is also referred to on some of our forms as a learning agreement, which has new components that are required. And so really there was such an overhaul. We wanted you to see our prior board policy in AR and how significantly different based on the state changes the new versions are. And as I mentioned in the summary, these are documents that are really modeled after the CSBA versions that have been recommended to us.
All right, thank you very much. Do I hear a motion on this?
I will make a motion that we approve the board policy and administrative regulation for 6158 for independent study per the 2021-2022 Education Omnibus Trailer Bill.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
I wanted to offer an amendment, so I don't know if that goes before or after. A very minor amendment, but that was suggested.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But I don't know the order. I don't know Robert's rules. I'm sorry.
So we
Well, I
have a
didn't get a
motion
second.
without a second right now.
My motion dies because it didn't get a second. So
Oh, but it can get
Yeah.
it. But I'm like, it's gonna get the second. Oh, Linda's ready to second it.
I did state the second, I guess.
Oh, you
I
did.
didn't hear.
I did not hear that. No. Okay. Okay. So we have a motion and a second on the table, and let's hear your amendment. Trustee
It's just
David.
one that was offered to us by email that I think is pretty. It's for page 2 of the board policy. The top of the first paragraph that starts because of excessive leniency, changing that into to be more action oriented in order to decrease the duration of independent study. So I kind of like that change because it's more action oriented and less focused on the negative.
Yes.
So instead of because of excessive leniency in the duration of independent study, we say in order to decrease the duration of independent study, which the point is to get assignments done within a week.
Okay. So the sentence then, because it says because excessive leniency in the duration of independent study assignments may result in a student falling behind.
In order to decrease the duration of independent study assignments, which may result in a student falling behind, blah, 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 independent study shall be completed no more than 1 week. To be honest, even the original sentence doesn't make sense to me because of excessive leniency in the duration. So I think we're just trying to say to decrease the amount of time students have to complete assignments so that they don't fall behind.
Yes.
Make it 1 week. Make sure
Yes.
it's completed no more than 1 week after it's assigned.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Comment?
Yes.
Comment?
Yes.
So CSBA policies go through a legal review. So I agree with Trustee Nzewi, but can either Dr. Clark or Mrs. Sachs or perhaps Mr. Alvarado provide us with some guidance because in some workshops that I attended, if the board amends the recommended policy, it's suggested that it be reviewed. I realize this is a minor amendment, but we need to establish the practice of asking.
So then we'll just go ahead and pull the item and get back to you guys at the next meeting.
Okay.
So just to your point, Trustee Mayo, it does say, so when the CSBA provides us models, they also add the legal language embedded within. And so I believe that might be what you're referring to, Trustee Mayo, as our reference point. And one thing it does say that it says, in addition, 5 CCR 11701 mandates that board policy reflect an awareness that excessive leniency in the duration of independent study assignments can result in the student falling so far behind peers as to increase rather than decrease the risk of dropping out of school. So it's a fairly specific sentence they actually have here as part of the code.
Then like I didn't mean to hold it up, and it is minor, so I'll withdraw it, I guess.
No, I mean, we can do that. I just want to make sure that we properly research it. If it's, I mean, I got Mr. Alvarado on here, but I don't want him to make a determination just on a whim. So again, I mean, this is why we do a first read and a second read. So if things come up, then we can evaluate them. So it's up to the board. We have no problem pulling it and bringing it back. I mean, we are legally obligated to get this done in a particular amount of time. I think we're still within the timeline, but again, so it's up to you. I mean, we can definitely do it. I'm not discouraging that. Mr. Alvarado, is that what you would recommend?
That's right. There was a motion and there was a second. There was also a proposed amendment, which was not second. So at this point, it's up to the Madam President to decide whether to proceed with the motion as it was originally made, and the second that was made as well. And I understand that the amendment has been withdrawn, so it's up to you. We can also go back and look at it and bring it to you for your review for the next time, as you wish.
All right, thank you very much. So yes, so at this point, there has not been a second to the amendment. So Trustee Nzewi, do you have a preference at this stage?
We can move it.
Move it forward?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh, but can I make one more comment?
Yes.
Because now we're still in discussion. Yes. I just want everybody to remember that, like, if you read this is why independent study sucks right now. It does not have to do with our poor planning, because way back in the spring, even Dr. Clark, I believe in one of his superintendent reports right after spring break, explained how they had sat down and planned this great virtual academy that would have looked like what we had, except full day, much more, many more live instructional minutes. It would just be like this. And that was the plan that everyone had up and down the state. And but because parents didn't want schools to have that option in the fall, the legislature and the governor listened to that set of groups and just made it so that parents didn't have that option. And so here we are passing this new board policy and administrative policy, but luckily it is only good for 1 year. And so hopefully independent study can go back to the program that people who have used it forever and have taught it forever know and love, and students will continue to thrive. But I also have the utmost confidence that our teachers and all the staff that run our Horizons program will do the very best and provide the very best education they can and support the families to the best of their ability, given the additional constraints that have been put on them without educator input.
Thank you, Trustee Nzewi. Yes. Okay. All right. So here's where we are. We have the original motion by Trustee Mason and second by Trustee Mayo. Any further discussion on that? So is the motion to approve this as presented? Okay, so we will take that to a vote. Trustee Fowler,
Yes.
trustee Mason,
Yes.
trustee Mayo,
Yes.
trustee Nzewi,
Yes.
trustee McFerrin.
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. And thank you very much, Ms. Sachs and Dr. Clark, and with some assistance from Mr. Alvarado. Much appreciated. All right. That takes us to 18.3, review and potential approval of revisions to board policy 6163.2, animals in school.
That's going to be Dr. Aguili.
Hello, we're just bringing back this for the second reading. The board policy is being asked to be approved this evening, and the administrative regulation is being brought back for informational purposes. We had also presented that last time, but it's hard to approve the board policy without that for reference.
Very good, thank you. Do we have a motion on this item? Trustee McFerrin?
I'll move that the board approve the update to board policy 6163.2.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All right, motion by trustee McFerrin, second by trustee Nzewi. Any discussion?
Shouldn't
Mayo?
the motion include the revisions to the AR also?
Yes, the AR was brought back for information purposes. That's not something that the board typically approves, but we do advise the board as when those updates are made.
Oh, okay. So you're not looking for a motion for the AR then?
Correct, just for the board policy.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll take it to a vote. Trustee Fowler,
Yes.
trustee McFerrin,
Yes.
trustee Nzewi,
Yes.
trustee Mason,
Yes.
trustee Mayo.
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. Thank you. All right, 18.4, review and potential approval of resolution 2122-8, reducing or discontinuing the number of classified employees based on a reduction of discontinuance of a particular kind of service, PKS, for the 2021-22 school year. Dr. Clark.
And Dr. Scudero is going to take this item.
So this comes from an elementary school who had some site budgeting issues that they need to meet their site budget requirements. So we're asking you to approve resolution 2122-8 in terms of reducing a particular kind of service for classified staff as outlined in the attachment.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 21/22-8, reducing or discontinuing the number of classified employees based on a reduction or discontinuance of a particular kind of service for the 2021-22 school year.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All right, motion by trustee Mason, second by trustee Nzewi. Any further discussion on this item? Pretty straightforward. All right, we'll take that to a vote. Trustee Fowler,
Yes.
trustee Mason,
Yes.
trustee Nzewi,
Yes.
trustee McFerrin,
Yes.
trustee Mayo.
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. And that takes us to our final item of the night, 18.5, public presentation of the Mount Diablo Unified School District Initial Successor Agreement Proposal to Teamsters for 2020 to 2023.
And that is also going to be Dr. Scudero.
So we're bringing this for your information. We just wanted to present our successor sunshine articles as we work with Teamsters. The Teamsters this summer had put forward a proposal that we found very intriguing. We thought it was a brilliant way of helping us move forward. As we consulted with our legal advisors, they told us there were a couple things that we had to do. One of which, to follow the ERA, was to make sure that we sunshined our articles for the years 21-22 and 22-23, because they had not been sunshined for that period of time yet. So you'll notice in these sunshine articles, we're taking the articles that we had before, articles that the two sides had agreed on. The district and the Teamsters have been negotiating for about 3 years now. We wanted to move all those tentative agreements into the future and put us in a place where we could honor their last proposal that moved us into the future. Are there any questions about this?
Trustees, any questions? No questions. Thank you very much for providing that. I think it looks like a very a good solution to moving things forward. So really appreciate the work of the Teamsters on this and look forward to seeing the next steps.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so that takes us to any future agenda items anyone wanted to mention? 21.1.
No, Trustee McFerrin, we have a resolution.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if we might be interested in writing a resolution recognizing October as Prescription Drug Abuse Awareness Month. And then I also just can't ask this without saying that there are a lot of stigmas around drug use, particularly prescription pills, and that the truth is that this can impact anyone, anywhere, and any time. And so I just wanted to bring it up as something to look into, hopefully.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely.
And there's several organizations out there that have resolutions that we could look at and adapt.
Yes. Would the two of you like to work together on that? Trustee McFerrin, Trustee Mayo?
Certainly.
Fantastic. That would be great.
And we will be bringing back the Mexican Heritage Independence as well for the next meeting.
For the September 8th meeting. And Trustee Nzewi, you were interested in doing some work on that one?
Yeah.
Yes. Fantastic. Great.
Don't let me forget.
Here we have Columbus Day coming up. Should we do something for the Italians?
Indigenous Peoples
Just
Day.
kidding.
I know. All right. Great. All right. Anything else?
I don't know if this is the right time to announce it, but I had two announcements I wanted to make.
Mm-hmm.
Just that tomorrow we are having a board training at 4:30. So just wanted to, that is posted on our website. So I wanted to let you know that. And then I also, every year we participate in the CSBA conference. And so they have been sending out their announcements and whatnot. We've already missed the early bird special. I know Trustee Mayo brought that to my attention some time back, but I wanted to at least mention it to the entire board. So just over the next couple of weeks or whatnot, we'll send out more information on that. I know, we definitely want to get our new student trustee linked up with the other CSBA student trustees, although she doesn't need our help in making connections. She's already out there blazing a trail of student board member good trouble, right? Good stuff that they're out there learning. So that's good. So I do want to make sure we get our student board members signed up, but also for the rest of the trustees, that this is an opportunity for us to get additional training and whatnot.
Question. Will our meeting tomorrow be at Dent Center or is it being conducted all virtually?
It'll be at Dent.
Thank you.
On the meeting tomorrow, the posting looks like it says 4 o'clock. I thought the meeting was at 4:30.
4:30 to 6.
The attachment says 4:30.
It's 4:30. We'll fix that.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, yes.
That's all my
the
announcements.
CSBA conference is definitely a great opportunity. And for new board members as well, if you're able to fit it into your schedules.
You scared me when you said announcements. Those usually aren't good. I'm like, oh no, where's he going?
No, there's been,
Those are all future agenda
they're
items.
all future agenda items that'll come
Okay.
forward.
Fantastic. All right. Anything else? Okay, with that, we are adjourning this meeting at 9:44 p.m. We'll see you tomorrow at the study session.
Thank you.